It's a good night, y'all. It's a good night. It's a good night. It's 7 p.m. and it is September 17th. The day after the big day in Barbados. The big day in Barbados was yesterday, September 16th at 10 a.m. when we convened at Massacre Park and we had our protest march, and it was so good to see Bajans waking up. Ramin, good evening. Ramin was on from 5:40. 5:40 p.m. I came on to do all my technicals. I saw Ramin says good evening all. Please do like and share this to get information out to others. Each one reach many. Listen, this is teamwork, you all. Teamwork. Let's make this Sunday evening big. Let's make it a big Sunday evening. Can you all hear me? Let me know if you can hear me well. Let's this Sunday evening be a massive Sunday evening. This is a Sunday evening of victory. Listen, we are on the David team. Anybody on the David team? Who is on the David team? Tracy Barrow. Good evening, Tracy. Tracy says good night, everyone. Pauline Maynard. Good night, Pauline. CJ, good evening. All Saturday's March was awesome. Yes, it was. Mystic. Sonia Ashby. Yes, Sonia. Sonia is telling people good evening, all like and share. This is our show. This is where the opposition speaks. Yes, good night, good night, good night. Mystic said that they're hearing me loud and clear. Victory in your houses, wherever you are. You're watching in your house, in your car, wherever you're watching. Put up the V sign. It is victory. It's making that declaration. You got to speak things into being. Mr. Nigel Newton. Oh my goodness, I saw him early on at the march. We picked him up for the march, and he said, "Today is a day of victory." Nigel, you see, I'm still saying it's a day of victory. Yeah, V is for victory, guys. V is for victory. We are like David. We are like the little David. And this is how we're living our lives. We are positive. We are positive people, and we are speaking victory, 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 victory. Listen, when we look at the story of David and Goliath, there are certain characteristics, certain areas of the story that we can actually, details that we can pull out. One is that David was obviously smaller than the giant, right? He was young. He was a teenager. He was obviously smaller than the giant. So that's one characteristic of David, and one difference between Goliath and David. He was smaller, right? Way smaller. When we look at the march that was held in 2017, July 2017, when all of the unions came out, yes? All the unions came out and supported that march, which they should not have, because it wasn't a march for the workers. It wasn't a march for the workers. But they convinced, they convinced those workers. In fact, they paid the workers, the merchants, all the companies. They paid the merchants to go out and march for them. Huh? They paid them to go out and march. That was a Goliath march. That was a Goliath march, because you had, what else did you need? You had all the unions except Caswell's union, Unity Workers. You had all the unions, right? And then you had what? You had all the merchants, all the commercial businesses. It was a weekday, and they sent the people all out. No work today, and we're gonna pay you. Hey, who is not gonna go out on the street? That was a Goliath march. Then you had the BLP organizing that all. Okay? So that was a Goliath march, right? This was a David march. And I love it. You know why? Because Goliath never won. Yes, Mark Clark is saying good night. Good night to all of the opposition. Yes, good night. Good night. There's a Mark McLean as well. Keep sharing, guys. Good night. Good night. Monica Inns, good night. the other important feature in this David and Goliath story is that David did not have the resources that Goliath had. David didn't have the resources. Goliath had a huge spear. He had on his a helmet. He has on his breastplate. He had on all of these, all everything he had on as a warrior. David didn't have those things. David didn't have those things. So you can't. We're not going to be comparing the marches we're having with the 2017 march. We're not comparing that because we already know we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources. David, what did David have? What did he have? He had a sling and a stone. And then this Goliath had all the artillery. Artillery. Goliath was ready. He was ready. Yes? Remember, he was large, David was small. He had all the resources, all the artillery. David had nothing. All David had was a sling and a stone. No match. No match in the natural, you see? You see that? You're right, Sonia. You're right, Sonia. Right? He didn't have the experience of a war. David did not have the experience of a war at all, right? David did not have that experience of fighting a war. He didn't know how to fight any war. He never fought in a war before. Listen, Goliath had fought so many wars, and that's why the Israelites were afraid of him. You know, so listen, as I said, we can't compare that march, the march of 2017. That was the Goliath March. The Goliath March, they had the unions and they had the political party. We don't have no political party. We don't have any merchants behind us. So that march was larger. They had the resources. They were advertising it. They had everything. Huh? But we are the David March. We are the David March. We have the sling and the stone. We had the sling and the stone. We had less resources, right? But I tell you something. Yes, David was a little person compared to the giant, right? David was a little compared to the giant. But today we are saying it is a day of victory. Nigel says, never forget that injustice carries within its bosom the seeds of its own destruction. Therefore, we are confident and committed to clinching the victory over corruption all the time. Nigel is so deep. I have to get him on the show one of these days. We're going to set him up and get him on. I see the general. Aha, the general is in the waiting room, in the green room, and he's setting up. Can't hear to get to hear him tonight. Yes, David was a little person compared to the giant. And this is why I say, people of faith, pull out your faith. I know what faith I am. You know what faith you are. You can't expect to fight a giant with the kind of resources that they have and the kind of artillery that they have and the numbers that they have. David, we can't fight it in our own strength. But I tell you, they're so scared of it. They had their drones looking down. We were smiling, not myself and Caswell and Kimar. We were smiling. We were taking a picture. We were like, take my picture. Listen. It's good to see Mr. Franklin. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I am very well today, but rested, thank God. And but let me tell you, I am 100% behind you and what you're saying tonight, because you see that massive
Come up a
march that the
little
people got.
closer. Come up a little closer. We need to come and take a look at your in the week. We need to come and check out. Come in a little closer. Are you hearing Mr. Franklin well, Sonia? Let me know, because we don't want to miss a word that he's saying. Go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
But I was telling you, they had the merchants, they had everybody. I remember people had to go to the park and sign in for their work. the employers were paying them to go to march. And I will never forget this. I had one young lady that their company was paying people to go to the march.
1 second, Miss. So I want to start this out in the early. Is there anything on your computer that could allow you to raise your volume?
I
Do you
just
see
did.
that button? Did you put it to all?
Yeah, it's up to all now.
It's up to all. Okay. They're hearing you, but it's low. Okay, so just speak, we control of it and speak up.
But
You know that you know they want to hear you.
I will speak a little louder, And
Yeah.
that
Go
young lady,
ahead.
there was one young lady, I'll never forget this case. They were paying them to go to march. Then a couple of weeks later, she was at work, and someone from the QH called and said to her, "Come and see your mother for the last." And she told the employer, and she rushed off. She worked in the store. She rushed off around 10 o'clock. She went to the hospital, and thankfully she was able to spend the last few minutes of her mother's life with her. She's, the next day she was so distraught because she was a young girl in her 20s. And she didn't come to work the following day. Pierre, what happened? They paid her for 2 hours, for those 2 hours that they from 8 to 10, then the hospital called her, and they didn't pay her for the day she stayed home after the mother died. That is how much they love us. They wanted to get rid of the NSRL, and they paid through their teeth. They paid people for not working. I've never seen anything like it. I remember when they came up with this social partnership. From the Stewart call it a philosophical absurdity, where that's what he called it, philosophical absurdity. When the capital and labor get together, don't ever happen. But I told people, when the lion lie down with the lambs, there's one product, lamb chops, because the
Say that again. When the lion lie down with the lamb, what happened?
I said, when the lions lie down with the lambs, there's one product, lamb chop. Because those biblical days of the lion lying down, the lamb are not here yet. Those lions will eat you up. And that is what they wanted to do, and that's what they did. Because they're not so nice to workers anymore. The workers were a thing to achieve a political end. And also to achieve, not only political, to achieve an end where they can fleece the government, not pay taxes, and the unions march with them. I can never understand that. Unions march with employers to stop employers from paying taxes.
You see, and that's why I say to the people, I said to the people that we are the Davids, and I love that company. I love the David company. I love that. I love it because our dependence is on God, and we know that an impact is being created. That was March number 4. That's March number 4. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
I don't want to forget this at all. I never will.
No,
but
no.
I don't want to step
I know
aside.
what you're going to talk about. Go ahead.
On Saturday, I was by the truck, after the march is finished, and I was giving out water. And this little guy came to me, and he had some money folded up in his hand. So I thought he wanted a bottle of water. I said, no, the water is free. He said, no, it's for the march. And the little fella, I think he's 10, he's a lot. And he gave me $3. I felt so good. I said, look at this little boy, he wanted to make sure he contributed to the march. A $2 bill and 4 quarters. He gave me $3. I felt like he gave me 1,000. You hear what I tell you?
Yes.
If he was 10 years old, I say he was a lot, but he wanted to make sure he contributed to the march. He was a child.
Yes,
he is a child.
yes.
That touched me. That touched me. I was touched by a lot of things during this time, but that was the deepest. A lady walked into the march when we were coming up Broad Street, and she just handed me $50 and walked back out. And she was a part of the march. And
Yes,
she
yes,
didn't say anything to me. She just handed me the 50. I thought she was shaking my hand at first, and then
yeah.
she give me $50. I said, you see, the people are with us, They might
Mm-hmm.
be afraid, but they're with
Yes.
us. Their
Yes,
hearts are
it
there.
really, somebody here saying she witnessed that. Yes, I saw the little boy. I tell you, tears came to my eyes, and I could tell Mr. Franklin wanted to cry too. And I also saw someone is asking how the march went. And if you went to the march, I want you to take your time and write in the comment sections what you loved about the march, your experience. Um, of the march. Somebody says, Blessed night to all the oppositions. We march on our own free will. Nobody is paying us. We are actually paying for our march. But that little boy really, really inspired me. I left there saying this Barbados means business. I left there smiling. And because sometimes people criticize Barbados and say Barbados need to wake up and all of that, but I see my people getting up, and I know it's going to be awesome. I we have Apostle Breedy is actually in the green room, and she's going to come. We're going to talk about the Trident ID. But I mean, I am so excited, what is happening. And I like to be transparent and to tell the people how much money we raised, Mr. Franklin. Is that okay? Can I tell them?
Yes, yes, please, please. We have nothing to hide.
Opposition. This is one thing I'm telling you. Clarity. You see this man on the screen. What you see is what you get. All right. And this woman here, we're not in nothing political. Here I tell you, it's all about the people, and we understand the purpose of God. And you're gonna get a woman coming on, another woman of God coming on here tonight. This is serious business. And I when I got the funds, right? And I went to my office, I started to count it. I got another sister to count it with me, so to make sure that I get in the right amount. It was 2,583. That $3 is a little child.
Mhm.
2,583, Caswell, and opposition. It's your money. And you know what that means, guys? The next March number 5 paid for already. March number 5 paid. I've never seen anything like this. The people serious, Mr. Franklin, and we March number 5 is paid for. So when the date, listen, all gotta do is double up those numbers and come out. So we were out on the 16th, and that means we're out on September 30th, right, Mr. Franklin? I'm correct with that?
Um,
Yes,
Today is
I'm
the
seeing here that today is the
16
18th.
and 14. Yes. Mhm.
So we are out on the 30th. March. Yes, 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 yes. The people. And Kamar, you weren't here, but you should have seen how the people were responding on the side of the road. And people left from what they were doing and they came and joined. People left from the side of the road and come and stick money in my hand, stick money I calling you pastor. Why are you calling you pastor tonight, Pastor Franklin? And sticking money in Caswell's hand. I didn't even know that was happening, but that was happening to me. They were coming, and I was saying, I hope nobody don't come and rob me, because I see people giving me money. You see how fast I get out there? I got in a car quick and gone. I'm like, listen, I'm Jamaican. I'm street smart. I'm Jamaican. I said, I hold on my back. I was gone in a light, man. I left that square so fast. I said nobody gonna rob me, because people see that people giving me money. But we collected $2,583. And the marches are generally about 2,500. And we say generally because it depends on how much police they decide they're gonna bring out for us. They're gonna send out. It depends on what threat level they think it is. So we have to gauge it. Sometimes it might be a little more or a little less, right? So I mean, how you feel about that, Mr. Franklin? That the money is paid
So
for the next March.
when you send me that message, I felt so good. I said, look, the Lord is with us. When he's with you, who can be against you? And I don't mind the drones. I don't mind anything else. We had somebody above the drone looking down too. The drone was
Yes.
only in between, and I said, look, and it followed us. I only noticed it from like Broad Street, Lower Broad Street, and it followed us all the way up to Independence Square. I said, look at these people; they don't have
Yeah.
nothing to do with all. They're worrying
Listen.
about us. Do the right thing, and we won't be out there.
Correct, correct. And we know that God was also looking down on us. We could feel his presence. People said to me, I feel this one feels different. And every March people say it feels different. There's a different feeling. There was just that freedom. Each speaker, somebody said
That
here,
the money paid for. When you send me
okay.
that message, I got
Okay.
something.
I think
All the rest.
Apostle Brady might have to turn down her whatever she's listening to. We're gonna hear from her soon, because we're gonna talk about the ID. It was bothering her spirit, and she called me, and I felt that she's supposed to come on and to speak to us tonight. Because it's a very serious thing that is happening. I just want to read some of the comments here, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Franklin just to talk to us about the Barbados Management ID Act. That's it. I think that's the
The
full name of it.
Barbados Identity Management Act.
The Barbados Identity Management Act, and to give us a preface before we hear from Apostle Brady. So get ready to just give us that. Um, um, Someone is saying about the march. That says, I felt a sense of great integrity. Listen, when these men spoke, I felt all the truth coming from them. And it's all the truth. I couldn't cry, but my heart was heavy with great love and respect for everything you guys doing for the country. Honesty to the world, honesty. I'm telling you, down to the money, everything. It's coming from the people. I think this is such a powerful movement. I saw as let me welcome Dr. Apostle Brady tonight. But Apostle Brady, I want to say welcome to you for joining us. And just to say to Apostle and to everybody listening, another sight that I saw on the street was a woman. She's a Rastafari woman, and she was crying. She looked at the march and she was crying. And I saw someone with her, and I'm like, oh no, what's wrong with her? I think she came to make a complaint. I thought she wanted to seek as well. Something happened at work, and this woman apostle was crying, and I'm saying, oh Lord, or should I need to stop and pray for her? So I saw somebody holding on to her, and I left the march and I went to find out what was wrong with her. I said, Ma'am, what is wrong? How can I help you? She says, I'm crying because the people are waking up, ma'am. Look at all these people. The tears was just running, and she was shaking, holding on to my hand. Come her. She was crying. She says the people, she wasn't in the march. She was going about her business. But she tears because she said, my Bajan people, my people are waking up. And that was a moment just like the little boy who came with the $3 to make this money $2,583. Now we know we will have March number 5 and number 6, number 7. We go into the rest of the year unless the general says whatever he says. But as far as we know, we're gonna keep raising the money, and we're not going to stop until we believe it's time to stop. But again, thank you all for joining. Please keep sharing. Please keep sharing. We depend on you to share. Good night, Apostle Brady. How are you doing? You are muted. You're muted. Oh, I need to let me.
Okay.
You're good now. Good night, Apostle
Good.
Brady. How are you?
I am extremely well. I'm doing well.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I know you weren't there with us on the march this time. You were out there and you were a speaker. We need to get you back out on the next march. And you were fire. You brought on fire in Independence Square.
Thank
Well,
you.
you're hearing about the reports on the march and so on. What are your thoughts about what's going on? This is, you know, um, if 4 marches about the pension bill. What are your thoughts about these marches?
Um, I have been here from a child, and I I really believe that Barbadians need to wake up. They need to wake up. I think if Barbadians do not wake up, Barbados is going to become a police state. Um, it is going to become a police state, and I have seen this in my dreams where if I wanted to go to St. Philip, I had to ask the government permission to go there. So I don't think that Bajans understand exactly what is really taking place in this country. It means that you have to stand up for your right. You have a right as a citizen of Barbados to stand up for your right. You have a right as one that is born here to this to say this is not right and we will not stand up for this. Okay. I'm gonna wait until you ask the questions, but
Yes, yes.
I I just think Bajans have to wake up. I have seen a lot and I know a lot, and Bajans have to wake up because this country is going to become a police state if Bajans do not wake up. They have to wake up. It's time.
Yes, it is time, and we're so happy to have you. Before you start, because there's a lot that you want to speak on this ID, and I know that the Lord prompted you to call me this evening because I just have been, this ID just has had me in a whole different space. So I know that you have something to say to us tonight. But let's hear from the general tonight. He's the man with the law and all the facts. So tell us tonight, Mr. Franklin, about this ID in terms of the act itself.
Well, thank you so much. But what I can do first is to tell you how this thing came about. It came about in stealth. It came about in secret. And
Mhm.
as you do that, I suspect something is wrong. I do not have to know that something is wrong. But when the government go to such extraordinary length to secret this act from the people of Barbados, then they know they're doing something wrong. This act was brought before Parliament in 2021, and it was passed in one day. One day. First reading, second reading, third reading, passed, sent to the Governor General for assent. One day. And that day happened to be the day when I wrote to the Parliament the day before and said, I am unable to attend the Senate on that Wednesday. And they brought forward that bill without telling us anything because I'd never seen it before. They brought it forward and passed it in all its stages in that one day. And I'm saying to you, when you go through such extraordinary lengths to hide it from me, Monique Tate and Crystal Drex, they were also not present in the Senate that day. And usually they were the people who stood up and, to the government more so than anybody else. And they passed it in one day. Mind you, I can understand if you do something in an emergency that has to be done very quickly. But they did it in one day and then kept it there for 2 years. Excuse me. They kept it there for 2 years before they implemented it. Now, if you had 2 years to implement this bill, this act rather, why would you pass it so urgently? They had something to hide. And everybody's about the world is warning us about this identity bill, and our bills are going up and taking it up. I, Caswell Franklin, do not have one. I do not want one. I have a passport issued by the government. I have a driver's license issued by the government. I already have an ID card issued by the government. And you are telling me now that when I come forward and produce one of those, it's not going to be me. An ID card is only supposed to identify you. If I approach your business, you want to know that it's Caswell Franklin that you are doing business with. And you don't have to know that by an ID card. You can know it because, oh, Caswell went with me, so I know him. Or I've seen him on TV often enough, and know it's Caswell Franklin. You don't have to have an ID card. And if people want some documentation, and they're getting so silly. People ask you for ID and proof of address and all kind, because the government is scaring the hell out of them. I remember one day, and this is a joke. I have medical insurance, and I sent in a claim, and the records of the insurance company had me living at a different address because I had moved. But then I moved, because when the check went back from the old address, the postman sent it back. They then realized, okay, I will move, and they sent it to my new address. I opened the mailbox, I opened the envelope, I found the check. And they had in there a document that says to me that I have to register my new address. I have to certify my new address. So I said, what nonsense they're telling me? They said that I had to get a utility bill or some documentation from an insurance company. So I go into the insurance company and I said, okay, you said I have to have documentation from the insurance company with my address on it. Well, you sent me this letter that says Caswell Franklin, give my address. So I said, well, you're an insurance company, so here it is. They said, no, you can't. It's dumb. The government have these people so scared that they're doing stupid things. And now this identity management bill. Now, if you don't have this identity management bill, under the provisions of this act, let me open it up here for you. Section 5. 10, I think it is. They are saying to you that if you do not have a person who is not registered under this act shall not be added to the National Register, be assigned a national registration number, that's B. C, be issued with an identification card or a national identity credential. D, qualify to be added to the Register of Electors or the revised Register of Electors prepared under the Representation of the People Act. About that one. That is where you can't vote. E, qualify to obtain a driver's permit or license. Or F, qualify to access any service or goods which require the presentation of an identification card to obtain such goods and services. All right. Now, pray tell me. I go to the hospital, they want my ID. So I don't have an ID because last time I went there to get blood, to give blood for a blood test, the doctor said I got to go and get some tests done. Mind you, there's many hospitals having some problems and I lost it. When the computer thing was down. So up to now, they don't find my blood yet. I went to the lab and get it. And you are telling me that I cannot go to the bank and get my money from the bank because I don't have an ID card. This is what the government is saying in this bill, I can't go and get any goods and services that I have to present an ID card for. That is ridiculous. That is draconian. That is forcing me to get this card. Now they're saying to the people who catch the bus, the old ID card have a yellow background for people under the age of 65.
Okay.
And a red one for people over the age of 60. So when you go to the bus and you flash this card with the red background, the bus driver don't got to sit down and calculate your date of birth. He knows you are over 65 when you get to the bus. So now they're telling you, but the Prime Minister coming and said, you will still be allowed to use this ID card for the time being. But the goal is to get rid of this because they are saying to you that this card will expire. Now, how can an ID card expire? I do not know. Because all an ID card does is to say to you, this is who you are. And it says that to a third party. Now, let's say the ID card expired on the 30th of September. So on the 1st of October, it will not be me anymore. It is stupid.
Yeah.
You just want to know that you are dealing, let's say it's a check. You go to the bank and you present an ID card. The check was fraudulent.
Yeah.
When you and the teller cashed it for you, when the police comes, the police they go to court, the court will ask the teller How do you know it was Caswell Franklin? He said, oh, he gave me an ID card. Mark Caswell Franklin, look at the back, and this was the registration number on the back there. Or, well, no, Caswell ever since we went to school together. How
Right,
we
so
just
that
say,
it's not necessary. You know, I have on the screen here, Mr. Franklin, the what you just read, and I want before Apostle Brady starts to speak, because sometimes, you know, Apostle Brady and Mr. Franklin, people think we're making things up. I hear that all the time. We're troublemakers. And so I want us, we're Bajans, you can read. And I'm going to highlight this section for you. Let's just move the comment off. And this is what I'm going to clear, make sure the screen is entirely clear so you can see exactly what it is that Mr. Franklin was reading. And in fact, you can go online and you can find this at barbadosparliament.com. You just have to type in the Barbados Identity Act. Even if you don't have the full name, you're going to see it and you can download it. We need to learn to start to read for ourselves, because I hear a lot of people challenging things that they have not researched themselves. They only hear what what they hear in a press conference or what they read in a newspaper, right? And then once we start to discuss it on here, they're telling us we're trying to cause trouble when they themselves have not researched it. So please take a look at it. This is what Mr. Franklin was reading to you, right? Right here, okay? And it's right here on the screen. There's also another section, if I can find it, and I think it's 12. Mr. Franklin can help me, where it actually spells out the purpose of the card. Let me see if I can. The use of the card. The use of the card. A person who's issued an identification card may be required to produce his identification card to the chief registering officer, a registering officer, or any other officer designated by the commission, to a police officer, an immigration officer, or a custom officer. All right. For the purpose of voting in an election. This is what Mr. Franklin just said. It's all here. And I just wanted to, for you to see it for yourselves. Okay? For you to see what is on here for yourselves, so that, okay, so now that Mr. Franklin has given us the background on how it has
no,
passed.
no, before you finish, I want to give you one other
Yes.
aspect of this, because I think we have not dealt with this aspect so far. The National Register will now be used as also the voting list.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So if you are not a National Register, you can't vote. And then that means you have to get your ID card. But they say they're mixing up a lot of things. Because this card now is to show that you're a citizen of Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's supposed to be. Or a resident, or whoever they say you are, a legal resident of Barbados. But at Section 4 of the Act, it deals with 4.6. It deals with where the Commission can review the register and where necessary, delete an entry in respect of any person. Well, A, who is deceased, no problem with that. Who is not a citizen of Barbados and who no longer resident in Barbados and has not been resident in Barbados for a continuous period of more than 5 years. So this actually takes you off the voters list,
Mm, mm.
because once you are off, But mind you, this provision, they use a provision that you could not become a member of the Senate or the House if you were there for 5 years or more. They changed that provision to accommodate Pierre McConney, but now they're implementing it for other people.
Yeah. You know, it's a government that does what they want. Let me just bring Apostle Breedy in here. Thank you, Mr. Caswell Franklin, for giving us that very, very important introduction. Mr. Miss I'm calling you doctor, all kinds of things tonight. But Apostle Brady, what's on your heart concerning this digital ID? Why did you call me today? I know why you called me. Why did you call me?
I called you for a reason because that ID is very serious. And I want Barbadians to understand that this ID is all about the New World Order. Not only this, last year I saw some people coming across my neighborhood with some garbage can. And while I saw them coming across with the garbage can, I have never seen some garbage can where so many people were following this garbage can, and they had like a barcode on this garbage can. Well, I looked at the garbage can and I realized when they dropped the garbage can, they went to the meter of the meter. So I said, how on earth a garbage can be attached to a meter? Let me tell you what this ID is about. This ID is all about this idea is all about that if you do not comply to the government, there comes a time if you don't comply to the government, you will not be able to pay your car insurance, you will not be able to buy food, you will not be able to do, and I think Bajans should boycott it. Boycott this ID card. So when I saw these people bringing this garbage can, and so I said to my neighbor, I don't want this garbage can, because this garbage can, something is wrong with this garbage can. Let me say this to you, right? Bajans, you are a Barbadian. You have a right. You have a passport, you have an ID, and you have a driver's license. Why on earth government will tell you that they're going to remove you from the national register because you will take their ID? You will take their ID. That is communist. That is being in a communist country. That is a country that wants to tell you exactly what they want you to do, and you have a right. So there comes a time when those of us that don't take this ID, we will not be able to get no water, because the ID is connected to the water. It's connected to your hospital. I mean, you will not be able to go to the hospital. And I want you all to understand, this is the time to stand up for your right. Y'all put in this government, and it is time for us to tell the government we are the ones ruling the country, not them.
Mm, mm. Oh my goodness! This is what Mr. Franklin has been saying. And listen, folks, the thing is, I sincerely believe, my feeling about this, I agree with you, Apostle Brady, that we need to boycott it. The pinning of the ID. I understand that some persons, we have to understand, Mr. Franklin, because we were told that it was not mandatory. So a lot of persons went and they got the ID, thinking that they didn't have to pin it. But I am seeing here that where the PM is saying there's a new deadline for the Trident ID. Look at my screen. It says PM says new deadline for Trident ID pushed to 2024, but pinned cards will be needed. Who is she talking to? This is what it says. Pinned cards will be needed. And I'm saying,
can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Let me tell you what this pin is about. And I want Barbadians to understand that. The pin is about, if you don't comply to the government, you will not be able to get your money in the bank. If you don't comply to the government, the government of Barbados have the authority to shut you down from using your own money. And the pin, because it's all about your water, your daily things that you have to use. It's like being in Russia, communist Russia, and it's about being in communist Russia, and it is time for Barbadians to boycott that ID card. You put her in power. She can't tell you you should have a say in this ID card.
Yeah. Somebody says if we cannot vote without the new ID, how are we going to make a change? And I agree. If we decide that we are not pinning the card, they will have to stop it. We can stop it, Barbados. Listen, y'all, share this live. Take a moment and share the live if you have not done that. If you have not shared that YouTube link, share the live in your houses. I want everybody put up your fist. Raise your fist as a declaration in your house because we're not taking it. We cannot be told one thing one time. We were told it was not mandatory. Now PM is saying that the new deadline, and that the pin cards will be needed. What does she mean by that? Yeah, Mr. Franklin, what are your thoughts? You think Bajans are gonna boycott the pinning of the card?
Well, I don't know, but I hope they do, because let me tell you, so they still have not explained this card to the people. They just put it out there and they say you go and do A, you go and do B, you go and do C. They have not explained the purpose of this card satisfactorily to me, and I suspect to most people, because this card is insidious. You do not know what it's all about. You will find out. You say you got to show it to the police. I don't got to show the police ID card. The police, I will tell the police my name is Caswell Franklin. I don't have to, Barbados, you are not required to walk with an ID now. You're going to have to walk with one man to say get in the place, because any police can pull you up and say, like, you want your ID card. You ain't got to carry along. You don't know what's happening in this country, This government, this idiot government, has gone over the world and adopting everything out there, allowing people to experiment on Barbados, because this ID, this digital ID, it was not formulated in Barbados. This is something they picked up when she go on these junkets traveling. I can't even say first class, because she's traveling on somebody's jet, which is contrary to our rules, because she can travel first class, but she got to travel first class on scheduled airlines. And the last picture I saw of her getting off an airplane was not scheduled airline, but when you drive on somebody's plane, even if they give you a lift, that is a bribe. You're not supposed to, in her position. Even if it isn't a bribe, it looks so. You're supposed to catch, but she's all over the place, up and down, and the airplane I see her getting out of was not a scheduled airline. Watch these things.
Yes. So whoever she's getting those favors from. You see, you're so right. You're so right, Mr. Franklin. Someone here is asking the question, and I missed it. What does pinning the ID mean? What kind of services? Well, the first service that they have told us about is for the elderly, and this is the transport services of the elderly. The elderly would not be able to get to ride the bus for free, which is part of why they paid all of those taxes all this time, right? And now in their old age, they're now putting them through this, and they have decided to start with the elderly, and I call that elder abuse. They have decided, so that's one of the first things that is happened, and we can infer. They haven't said what services we would not be able to, but we're not stupid. All you've got to do is to go on the WEF website, go and search up anything that says about digital ID. This is why I say to Barbadians, read and research. Don't even listen to what we say on here. If we say something on here, go and read it for yourself. This is why I'm showing you the articles, I'm showing you the act, because I want you to be educated so that when you're ready and we decide we're boycotting, you know what you're doing. Yes. Apostle Breedy, do you want to answer this question? Add anything to the answer of this question on the screen?
Okay, what were they asking there? I'm not sure.
Okay, they said, what is the pinning for? What services are coming that my PIN card will be required?
Well, I just told everybody what it is for.
Correct.
I just told them what it is for. We are in the end time. This lady does not really care anything about the nation of Barbados. I think this lady cares about how she will be after she leave the earth. That she was this big whatever. As a matter of fact, this lady cares nothing about this country. She doesn't care about the people. She doesn't care. Now, when you can, you're gonna tell the old people you don't have the ID card, then you can't get onto the bus. We have a lot of people that are poor, and maybe that's the way they can go on the bus. This lady cares about nobody. It is time. It is time this lady care about her image, how she will be when she leaves office. And I don't know if I'm talking too plain. That's the way I am. I talk plain. The fact is, the lady doesn't care about the nation. She doesn't care. Don't ever think that she cares about you. Now, I want to. If this lady really care, I watched something during COVID where I
Oh,
saw like this.
Miss Apostle Brady. So don't say injection.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks.
no. I won't do that. I won't do
Yes,
that.
I know you know
I
that.
won't do that. I won't do that. All I'm trying to say, I watched something during that time, and it looks like they were being glorifying that people were dying. And I listened to this lady. The lady says, if you take it and your family die, we will give you some money. How
Yes.
can
Yes.
you, how can you as Barbadians sit and hear somebody telling you take an experiment, and if you die and give your family some money? That is a person that don't care about you, neither don't care about your grandchildren. You cannot bring back a human being that is dead. And if you're
Mhm.
going to use an experiment on an individual and tell them, well, I can use the experiment on your son, your daughter, and if your son die, I can pay you some money. Watch those things and realize that this woman does not care about the people of Barbados. That's my 5 cents.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you're
Yes.
making a lot of sense because she's only caring about the instruction she's getting from overseas. That's why she's overseas so often. She pays every so often. She pays a courtesy call or a visit to Barbados, and then she's out the next couple of days. And then, in order to let people see that she is here, she holds a press conference and talk all kind of rambling nonsense. And then she's gone again. She is
Yeah.
not in Barbados.
Well, there is a press conference that is coming up on the 18th, which is tomorrow. And Barbadians, I'm saying to us, those of you who can make it down to the press conference, go there and ask her the hard questions. Go to the press conference, take a placard, do something, those who can go, and let her know that we're not pinning it. We're not pinning it. No pinning happening in this country. We're going to
Can
boycott
I,
it.
yeah, can I say something if I can?
Yes, yes,
The pinning of this ID card also, I want to let Barbadians know that the pinning of the ID card is they will know exactly what you own. They will be able to have this type of relationship with the bank. If you have $5,000, they have the ability to be able to know this. Now, during COVID, there was a drone flying over our ministry. They were drone flying over our ministry. The fact of the matter is, uh, if Barbadians do not wake up, this country is going to become a police state. It's going to become a police state. You are not going to have any rights at all. How can you have a person, you got the majority of the vote, the poor people, the rich, the middle class of Barbados put you in, but yet they don't have a say. You make the country a republic, they had no say. you do all, and Bajans have no say at all. The country turned republic, they got no say. This is a woman that cares about her image and does not care. A true leader cares about the people, not about their image. And Bajans must come to that place to understand that a true leader take care of the needs of the people, not you taking care of yourself because you want to be part of the UN and you want to be part of this. So where do you live, Barbadians? So that's what I'm trying to say. Where do you live, Barbadians? And it is times for Barbadians to understand that woman doesn't care about you. And as a matter of fact, the reason why Barbados is like that, because we have pastors in this country that have been sold out. But I mean, she bought them out. So not even the pastors are talking. She bought them out and they can't talk. The McGuffey pastors can't talk. So the country literally goes to a goat nation.
Mm.
Are you with us?
This is serious tonight here, guys. This is serious tonight. Mr. Franklin, I see you want to jump in and say something.
You know, I just want to remind people that when there was the nurses strike a couple of years ago, the government issued instructions to the banks to go into the nurses' account and take off the money that was already deposited there for them.
Wow, come up a little closer and say that again, because people need to understand there's a precedence. There's something that happened. I see people from Canada saying that they're happy for Barbados, but speak up and tell them what was happen what they did in this country.
You recall the nurses' strike. My union led a strike with nurses when they wanted to do these jokes and get tested every week. And the nurses said, no, that's not happening to us because they knew the dangers. And they told the government, we told them, if you implement that, we are going on strike immediately. Without any other reference to you. We just going on strike. They were warned. But they implemented it and they published the names of the nurses who did not take the job or who did not go for the test, and they put them on a notice board. And during the strike, the government issued instructions to the banks and credit unions to go into those nurses' accounts and take off their money.
My God.
That is totally illegal. As a matter of fact, I made that allegation, and the director of finance and planning came out and said that I was not telling the truth, that it was rubbish. And I was waiting for that because we had previously gotten a call. We called the people in Jamaica because one of the banks, they get their back office thing, customer service, whatever. After 4:30, you have to call somebody, and it calls the registered in Jamaica. And we recorded the conversation, and the guy going on in Barbados. So he said the instructions were issued by government of Barbados, but the government was saying not. The bank office in Jamaica was telling the truth, so they would even lie. So I can't trust them because they lied, and I knew they were lying. I said I don't have a problem with a fella who lied and didn't know he was lying, right? Because how many people can be mistaken, but these people knew that they were lying and tell the country nonetheless and called me a liar. Until we were then able to, I said, hold back this. We are not going to let go this information yet because I wanted the Prime Minister to come out and say we were lying. But she sent her a fool, and he came out and said that we were wrong, we were lying, and it never happened. It's illegal, he said. And then we played the tape. We played the recording.
I remember that.
We played the recording then. We had it all along. But we wanted them to come out and say that we were lying. I was trying to set a trap with the Prime Minister, but she was smarter than that. She's an idiot. And he came out on radio and TV and said that we were lying. If they did not have authority to go onto your bank account and take up money, now when you pin this card, they have the means to do it now. You really feel that I'm going to do it? When they did it without any law in place for them to do so, they did it.
Yeah.
Because the banks in this country, the credit unions in this country, were afraid of the government. And they, before they tell the government, no, but you can't do that. No, they went ahead and did it.
But somebody here from Canada, I see some of my Canadian friends are on. I don't know if Antonia is from Canada, but I know that there's another friend I have on here that she comes on all the time from Canada. And we know that this is what Trudeau did in Canada to shut down the protests in Canada, right? To shut down in Kendall. Kendall can attest to this. This is what Trudeau did. And so they started that in Barbados here. And let me tell you something, Mr. Franklin and Apostle Breedy, that I checked in throughout the region, and Barbadians need to understand something, that what the rate at which this government is rolling out this ID, this digital ID, it's not nowhere near the rate of the other islands. This is on steroids. This is on steroids. When I called somebody from Trinidad today, and I was telling him, said, "What? Really?" They are in shock because yes, there's some little whispering and talks about it, but the level where it's reached, it's not reached there. And I know that in Jamaica, the prime minister was trying to go fast on it as well, and the bad boys came out and they said, "Listen, you don't even try that in here." The bad boys came out, show their face on camera, and they had to pull that back. Okay, I'm saying to Barbados, I'm not calling for any bad boys to come out in Barbados. What I'm saying is this, because we've been leading very peaceful protests, working very closely with the police, and so that is not what I am saying. But I'm saying Barbados, we need to make a stand and say, "Not over my dead body." It is not happening. We not pinning no card. And if
Marcel,
everybody stand up and say that it can happen, go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
Marcel, but you know who the bad boys working for? So you don't have to come out in Barbados, because you must remember, I will never stop talking about this. The bad boys were in Parliament, the state opening of Parliament. The bad boys were invited. I cannot. They told me when I asked, I was proud to be a senator. I don't know about food. I was proud. So I asked them if I wanted um to bring my wife. They didn't have space for my wife, but they had space for druggies, bad boys. I wanted to show off with the and say, "But look, yeah, Mr. Senator, and go down there and let's." Everybody wear this pretty big hat, I want you to wear a pretty hat too, and they said me that they don't have enough space for my wife, but they had enough space for drug men. And I remember how I see things. I didn't know them because I don't have those kind of friends. I don't mix with other people, so I didn't know them. How I knew that what they were is I heard some policemen complaining, and of course when I hear the police complaining, my ears got pricked. And I still what I was doing, and I pretended to be doing something else while I was listening. And I hear the police say, "You imagine we have to go up there and hunt them down and arrest them, and know we're here protecting them." So that made me listen some more, only to find out that drug men, people who had cases before the court, hold on bail, was in the state opening of Parliament, the first election 2018. So these, and then again, remember that Easter when they had the things on Deacons, when the police tell them they had COVID restrictions. Nobody could come out with them, but the bad boys could.
Yeah.
And then when the
So
bad
so
boys,
so you're basically telling me that you're alleging that the government is, if I see it like, you have this big tent and or big dress, like a hen, then a mother hen, the mother hen. Let's use that metaphor. So the mother hen has underneath her wings the unions, the gangs. Okay, are we? Is that what the allegation that the mother hen has the unions? the gangs, the churches, the businesses. Is that what we're hearing? The political parties?
That
Because
is
I'm here.
exactly what we're hearing now.
I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. Who is going to stand up for the people? That's why I started off the program talking about David and Goliath, and we are of the David company. We are of the David company, and we're saying that underneath that big dress or that the big wings of this mother hen, underneath them thing, but God will throw a dynamite underneath there. You understand? And everybody scatter. Everybody scatter. And Apostle, I see Winston is on as well, Winston Clark. And before I get to him, Apostle, I know you're busy, but before you go, I want to ask you, do you think that the churches, before I go to that comment, look at the screen. Kendall McCullough is in from Canada. I don't know if you can see my screen. And she says
Yes.
Trudeau is exactly the same as the lady you have in power. Exactly. She comes on and she's listening and she's telling us. And I have
Yes.
studied Trudeau, and I'm telling you, it's because when you go and you look at the WEF site, Miss Apostle Brady, you will see that Trudeau is one of the young leaders, the young emerging leaders, and
Yes.
they have tapped this lady in Barbados. That mother hen here has been tapped. She is the one. They have ignored all the men in the region. They ignore Rowley. They ignore Jamaica. They ignore all the men, and they're focusing on that mother hen. And they expect that all the experiments are going to happen in Barbados before it's rolled out in the region. And we say absolutely not. Absolutely not. My question is: do you think the pastors will come on board with this boycott? Say what you have to say, and then please answer that question. Thank you.
Only by God's grace. Listen, let me share something with you. This is things that I'm privileged in knowing. Uh, when this lady came in, when this lady came in, uh, you see the prayer life of many pastors in this country and the people in this country has lost their place in prayer. I'm going to answer your question, but I want to touch on the Barbadian flag being buried in Ghana. And I want to also touch on where did this woman find a slave bone to go back and bury in Ghana. You have to understand, not even the people under this woman can really speak out, because not even those that are under this woman can speak out, because they are under a spell. They will want to talk, but they can't talk because they are under a spell. When you can take the Barbadian flag and tell me they got so many dead bones in Christchurch Parish Church, where on earth, who told you that was a Ghanaian slave? How do you know that this was a Ghanaian slave? Where on earth that they tell you that this was? So I want to finish. Bajans must understand. My father is Bajan. My grandmother was Bajan. I raised her part-time, but I have been here a long time. The fact is that if you have a government system and nobody in your government can talk, you are the only person that talking, it means that you are under a spell, you are under a witchcraft. And I want to let you know, every single person under that woman behave like her and act like her. When you can take the Barbadian flag and put it in Ghana and tell me, it means, well, there are some that is not under the witch hunt. I am not under the witch hunt. But the fact is that the pastor's under the witch hunt. Mr. Caswell is not under the witch hand, but the country is under the witch hand, and it is time for the nation to come to a place of repentance. I want to say this before I go, because I have to go. I want to say this before I go. How on earth you have a government and not even those They can't disagree with you. They can't say nothing. Because you got their mouth locked up. You got their mouth locked up. That lady went through high level of witchcraft to get wet. Let me tell you something that I saw. During COVID, my second daughter had a baby, and the doctors called me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was the same time of the election. Well, my skin grew. There was the oh Lord, that church right there by Price Low, that small church by Price Low coming down. I saw men at 2 o'clock in the morning dragging broom like they were witches going down to the gas station. And I had already told the church that they are going to win in a landslide. I did not come out on Facebook, but I knew she was going to win because she did not win by the right means. Ghana, they did a lot of witchcraft. It is time for Barbadians to come out of the witch hunt, and it is time for you to retrieve the flag of Barbados, because why she did that that she can put the people under a mesmerizing thing. That's why nobody can talk, because they are under witchcraft.
Mm. Oh my God, my God! I tell you, she called me. She called me today, as well, and I knew it was something from the time I got the call, because my spirit was going about this ID, and this woman is speaking out, and she like me. They tell me even Saturday, somebody said, "Careful, they put you out." She wasn't born here. I wasn't born here, but God raising up His people. I know she has to leave. Let me let her speak some more. Go ahead. Go get Apostle Brady, because we believe that the people need to boycott this ID, boycott the pinning of the ID. Go ahead.
Yeah, not only boycott, but tell this government that we will not be under the witch hunt. We will not be under the witch hunt. There are some people that are not under the witch hunt, and we will not comply to that ignorance where you pin an ID that if I don't agree with you, then the bank, I can't use my money. You can't give me no water. I can't buy food from the place. And that's what she's doing. But I want to let you know, I ain't frightened for nobody. I have a grandchild and three children in this country. And if I have to stand up, I will stand up for the cause of my children, my grandchild, and those that can stand. I'm ready to march. I'm ready to march. It's time for Barbadians to come out of the Ghanaian witch hunt where she buried a bone. Where did she find that bone? I just want to know, where did she find the bone that she carried on an aeroplane? What type of bone is that?
Oh Lordy, oh Lordy, oh Lordy. Listen. I know, listen, I would love for you to come back and to talk about how do we prepare ourselves, because those who are not pinning it, because she said that the pinning is necessary. I showed you all that because I love to show you the things, I love to show you the things, because I don't want you to be saying that we are saying something that the Prime Minister is not saying. You see where she says here, and that the pinning is the pin cards necessary. The new deadline is 2024, but the pin cards will be needed. And you heard Mr. Franklin told us what you will be able to do with the pin card, with the ID cards, and what you won't be able to do based on the ID Act, the Identity Act. Yes? So I want you to come back, Miss Apostle Brady, to talk to us about how do you prepare your church? How do you prepare the people?
We are prepared. Sorry, woman of God. We are prepared as a church. We are prepared as a church. I have prepared the people of God saving the lost not to take this ID, because we will not listen. We are not under this witch hand, and we will not. This supposed to be a democratic country. That means A democratic country means I have a right to speak. I have a right to disagree with you. I have a right. And if this is a democratic country and I don't have a right to speak, it means that we are under a communist rule and we have to come out of that communist rule. As a matter of fact, it is time for Barbadians to wake up. It is time for Barbadians to understand that she must listen to the people. Let me share this with you. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna go. As I said before, this lady does not care about this country. This lady cares about her image. And Jesus help me here. This lady cares about her image. And if she really cared about the people, she would have put things to. Now, I know for a fact that they say that they have town hall meetings. How on earth you have town hall meetings, but you don't allow the people to speak the way you are trying to put your views on the people? And what type of town hall meeting? Let me share something with you before I go. The time when you had that first match and someone of your people called me, I had a dream the night. The Lord told me I must partake in that. I don't just follow matches. The Lord told me I must partake in that match. And I gotta share something with you. And I'm gonna share this with you. How a government could tell you, well, you don't need to have a match anymore, and put it big and bold in the paper. You don't need to have a match anymore because we have a town hall meeting. That is communist. That is a woman that is telling you, I rule you. I rule you. I have a town hall meeting. Shut your mouth. Go back and sit down. Put your tail between your legs and let me do what I want to do in this country. And the fact is that she has a intimidation tactic. Let me tell you something. It's an intimidation tactic that the people of the country does not fight for their rights. And any government that is like that is a demonic government that is there to lead the people into a place of hell.
Oh Lordy, I tell you, well, the apostle has spoken, and I want to get her back on to talk now about some practical things that we are going to do, because if we're going to boycott the pinning of the ID and it's linked to services, then we have to plan. Okay, and this is a thing. So thank you so much, Apostle Brady. Thank you for being obedient and calling me today, and we will talk. God bless you, man.
God bless you.
You made me raising my fist tonight, man. I raised my fist. Everybody in your house, raise your fist and let them know we ain't pinning that. We ain't pinning that.
No, we're not pinning that. We're not pinning that.
We need a song. We ain't pinning that. Somebody need to write a song. We ain't pinning that. All right, thank you.
No, God bless.
I have a problem with pinning it because I ain't got none.
No. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless.
God bless.
You know,
bye-bye.
The apostle said just now, you know, she was complaining about the churches and how the churches are under her wing. I spoke to some pastors during the COVID and I asked them how they get like this. They're not serving God. I said, why are you allowing? Why are you not speaking up? Then they said that you could only have 10 people in the church. You remember that? Mm-hmm. But when you could only have 10 people in the church, they were allowing minibuses to have 15 people. I don't know any church that is as small as a minibus. But you could have 15 in minibus, only 10 in the church. They didn't want you to the church. You know, you know, people, you'll be surprised when people mostly want to have the God around them, want to have the Savior. You know, when they're in crisis, you know, people turn to God in the crisis.
Yeah.
They make sure you couldn't turn. That's what this is about. He will tell you, you cannot go to church, you cannot go to the mosque, you cannot go to the synagogue, you can't go to any place. Only 10 people. And then you have to put down your name. Remember?
Yes, you remember, and
Oh,
remember,
good.
it was one pastor, Linworth Canterbury, which I'm
Leroy
gonna
Scantlebury,
hope
yeah.
I know he
We
has
went
his
last year.
programs, yeah, in the evenings. I'm gonna see if he can come on here because we need to push. I see Winston is on. I'm so happy Winston is on because listen, the cry is that is about boycotting the pinning of the ID. Good evening, sir. Good to have
Good
seen
evening.
you at the march on Saturday. Very good speech. It was funny and you came at it from a different angle. And it was good to see you there giving out water and everybody. We were all serving because that's what we do. Good to see you. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about? Let's first talk about the march, and then I want to hear your thoughts about the Bajans boycotting the pinning of the ID.
The march was it turned out great. Um, I find that we're seeing different faces all the time. Okay, as it progresses, we're getting more and more people are becoming more and more aware. People are more outspoken. You would have heard the opinions of different people as we walk through town to Independence Square, and the fact that we are able to speak on the truck while it is ongoing, we hit a wider base of people. All right. What I ask though is that all the people who are listening here, and I will continue to ask this, is that they share with at least 10 people and bring those people every time we get a march. I mean, ensure that they
Mm-hmm.
come. All right. Say, if you're with me, show me you're with me. Come out. Come out. Because these people don't believe sometimes that marches can have an impact, but they do. I know that for a fact. Okay. Because I would have been one of the people who would have been responsible one that caused a big turnaround when it came to the vaccines, etc. And
Right.
the
We don't
way,
use that word. We're not using that word on here. So injections.
okay, when it came to,
Yes.
okay, my humblest apologies. All right. But what I want you to realize as far as these ideas are concerned, this is something that has been initiated. If you listen to the G20, all right, they have started this and it's on a roll internationally. Now, what they're using here, Barbados is at the forefront in the Caribbean. And when they're implementing these initiatives, and I'll show you how it happens. They start first by enslaving the nation in debt. And this is something that is carefully orchestrated. They organize it so that you are enslaved in debt. And you notice
Mm-hmm.
the amount of borrowing that's been done. Okay? That way they can monitor, regulate, and tax you into social enslavement. All right?
Right.
Good. No, when they start to do that, what they're doing here, they're asking you to get these IDs and pin them. All right? Now, with this, they can now say, well, listen, if you don't pin, you see you, all right, your bank shut down. You can't get certain services because I want you all to listen carefully to her speech in the media. At the very
Mm-hmm.
ending, she said something, and they were denying this all along. She said, transactions will be made seamless.
Yes.
And I quote her verbatim, transactions will be made seamless. What transactions will you be making with your card? No, Mr. Franklin, you said something earlier about the people being arrested for not showing their IDs. It has already started. Last month, I know of a gentleman right now. His mother just called me before he came on, and she spoke about him being arrested for not showing his ID. If you look into the paper, you will see a guy who works on a PSV who was arrested. One of the offenses he was charged for was not showing his ID when asked. Now, Barbados has become like if it's under military rule. You understand me? It is going this way. Ready digital IDs. If people are not careful, they will have total control, a total monopoly over, and especially us who speak out, they will stop us from using social media, social
Yes.
platforms, censor what we say, where we go, because they will to monitor where you go. You understand? They want total control, and they're doing it digitally in the currency. and with the IDs because they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
All right, and we have to be very, very, very careful. We cannot allow them to go with this cashless, and we cannot allow them to impose these IDs on us. I talked Saturday about the bullyism tactics that are being used by RPM, and she feels she's such a big bully that she can even threaten the president of Russia. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. When the guy came out, he said, well, "Look, we are not even spectators in that football match. We can't even get up on the grounds." And she has the audacity to come on social media and say, "I ask you, your invasion of Ukraine. I ask you with immediate effect to stop it." No.
I tell you, listen, the woman is a mother hen and she feels she's talking to her chickens. She thinks
you understand me? And then she came now, because every time there's a delay as far as these IDs are concerned, she came now with this. I don't know where she get this from, that we have 220,000 people who took the ID.
Yeah, break that down for me. I heard Mr. Franklin was doing
no,
it.
I broke it down because I use Google Analytics to ask questions and you follow the census.
Yes. Listen, everybody get out your calculator. Hold a minute. Can we work? This is a class, you know. This is a class. Get out your calculator on your phone or a regular calculator and let us fact check this. We can all do little maths.
Fact check it. Google it. Between the ages of 0 and 14, there are more than 47,000 children in Barbados between the ages of 0 and 14.
Right.
Between the ages of 14 and 16, there are 27,700. All right. Now you can add that up. She's saying that 200. Now we know Barbados has approximately 287,000 people.
Right.
So from her counting, she went to school at Queen's College. She is stating that every single person in Barbados has an ID. When we do the calculation, and you add that 27 to 47, I mean, it go more than that. It go more than when you add it together. No, it go more than the population, because remember, you can only pay from the age of 16.
Right, the IDs, because the others they don't have it. 16, right?
That's
so you
right.
have 74,700. And how many persons she said now have these IDs?
220,000. So it's gone.
220,000. So where she get this rest of the people? The pure lies.
Listen, I know that. Calvin got none. I don't have any. So they mean that me and Kazo, we don't live in Barbados. You understand what I'm saying? Because the way she is estimated it, every single person in Barbados has it. But if every person in Barbados has it, why the delays? Why keep putting it back all the time until others get it? Because that's what she's saying. You see, I told everybody on Saturday that if she was to come with us and come and look at the march and tell us that today is Saturday, we would have to ask about 5 or 6 other people to be sure that it's Saturday. Because she becomes so good, so in these lies, that she's trying to believe herself. You understand? And this, I want people to really seriously consider not only boycotting that, but boycotting other things too, because we have a right where we can take certain things to certain agencies. Obviously, people will believe that if they take things to the court, that they might not get remedies because it's domestic court, and we understand there might be influences here, etc. But remember, if you go through domestic court, there's also regional court and international court. And because it is a matter of public interest, and I believe Kazu will be able to verify what I'm saying, it is a matter of public interest. It is something that you do not have to pay for. You understand? It falls under the Community Legal Services Act. You understand? It is a matter of public interest. If we ask that these people stop with this and allow us to participate and have a say in what is happening. You understand? We
Mm-hmm,
can do
mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I
There are
think,
different
yeah.
methods we can let everybody get together as opposed to it, and we start to file things. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We start to boycott places and things. You understand?
Yeah,
We start to,
yeah.
I mean, and not only that, Miss Breedy says something. The pastor says something just now. These people love their persona on the international stage. What
Yes.
they do is for the public, the international stage. They love the publicity. Oh, this person is the best prime minister in the Caribbean, and we're hearing the accolades, etc. What we need to do is, as you start with this lightheartedness, and you don't care about us, because we are not. People tend to say we the normal people. We are the real stakeholders in Barbados, each and every one of us. You understand? And then
Mm-hmm.
unless we stand up and make the international people know, I tell them, listen, you see what you all are seeing here? This is a facade. This is not the real thing. This lady is
Yeah.
not treating us well. We are not getting a chance to say anything. Our government, they're bullying us. The cost of living high, gas high, electricity high, water high. Even you might soon go, listen, and not only that, they're looking to take up people who have wells, try to confiscate wells on your own land. They want to have every. How can you quantify something that nature produces? You understand? So for now, we got to pay for oxygen. They're going to tax everything in Barbados, and everything is going to go sky high. All right? We
Mm-hmm.
need to make
So,
sure and let international and regional people know.
mm,
And
I like
this,
that. I like that
this,
idea.
this
Caswell.
is what will
I,
hit her and hit them, because 29 people underneath, and none of them don't have the cojones to tell you you're going wrong. Ask the people. Not one of them.
mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
understand? Man, come on, man.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
We
yeah.
need to let the international
Caswell.
know.
I like the idea that he's suggesting
I have
about
some
the
people here
the
who will be on
international. Can you hear
internationally.
me?
Let people
Yeah,
know.
I am hearing you quite well. I was just letting Weston speak.
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
understand? Not only that, but I saw something here, and I spoke to a young gentleman. He's a social influencer, and I spoke to him, and he's in the hospital on Ward B8, and it appears that he was beaten for no reason at all. He's been very, very outspoken and vocal on Instagram as far as what is happening with digital IDs, not digital, whatever um the jokes, everything that's happening. NIS pensions, he's been very vocal about it. All right. And I believe that some of these tactics are used to scare people away from what we are doing. You understand me? I believe that strongly, that what is being done, because he said he was going home and he was beaten. I don't know. I think that they rob him, they beat him. And it is going around that this is as a result of his being outspoken. You understand me? So I believe that these are, I look at everything from 2 or 3 or 4 different perspectives. So we have to stay with one another, support each other. And I'm asking each and every one, do not be afraid. Come out with it. There's a support mechanism in place. Come out. Please come out to this program. Share, share, share. I want to see the numbers on this program get so high. You understand that there's no space for this, so we have to have our own platform. All right? Because we have to stop these people from bullying and dictating what they want us to do. You understand? And treating us and speaking to us condescendingly. It's hurtful, man. It's hurtful when I see the belittling and disparaging remarks that these people consistently make about Barbadians. And they work for us. You understand? She is our employee. We can't allow this to continue going on. Let people know, let your friends, and we don't care from St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Dominica, St. Kitts, Grenada, all through North America, Europe. You understand? If you got somebody in the Pacific Islands, Samoa, Philippines, let them know. Let them know what is happening here in Barbados, please.
Yeah. Go ahead, no, Caswell. Thank you. Well said,
You know,
Winston.
Winston, you know, you did better about the scientific way you use the census and then to come to your conclusions. I didn't do the census, I just estimated. We come to the same conclusion. I said, you know, every year you have about 3,500 children doing the common entrance exam. So I said, well, look, so that between, so that means that every year we get 3,500 children, roughly. And by the time 17, because those bodies, because over 18, you have, um, you're allowed to vote, you have the ID card, that kind of stuff, over 16. And I said, well, if we only do it to 0 to 16, to 15, we have 272,500 people. If you go to 0 to 17, it's 279,500. So I was saying, well, boy, the government has almost 100%, according to her. That is just to show you that these people would say and do anything, would tell any lie to get their way. Right? But Marcy, I want to tell you about something that happened to me over the last week. You know, we have been fighting against the national insurance um, pensions arrangements, and people stop me on the street. People call me. You know, whatever happens, I'm inundated with people. And just recently, I received a call from some people in the Democratic Labour Party asking me if I would come and address their branch. If I would come and address their branch about the national insurance pensions and the pension arrangements in Barbados. And I readily said yes, because I told me I will go to PTAs, I will go to church groups, I will go anywhere because I want to make the people aware what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, but today, while I was but the people like to say, unbeknownst to me, a whole bunch of things going around me because the circular went out that I'm going to be speaking at the St. Peter's branch on next Sunday at 5. And believe it or not, the nation called. I spoke to somebody from Barbados today. Everybody calling me now because there's a whole set of things in the Democratic Labour Party. You remember I told you that the Democratic Labour Party hierarchy, Democratic Labour Party, they're fighting for her too? Remember I said that on the
Mm-hmm.
road?
Yeah.
Now I am, this person writes and a WhatsApp message says, good afternoon, Steve. I just received a call from the chairman of the branch informing me that he received a call from the president and the general secretary of the party that Caswell cannot speak at the meeting of the branch. I want to politely inform you that you nor the president can dictate to the branch who to invite as a guest speaker.
Hold a
This was,
minute. Hold a minute. Hold a minute. So you are saying, oops, sorry, my area's communities noises and bikes passing, that you were asked to speak at the branch meeting in St. Peter, and the
mm,
president of the DLP, you're saying that this is what came to you, right?
yeah,
That the president, this is what you're saying, and the general secretary, they're saying that you, Caswell, cannot speak at the branch meeting on NIS. Is that what you just said?
yeah, that's what I just said. You know, what is amazing is that in the last election, I received a call from the same general secretary asking me to run for St. Thomas. And I tell him I am not interested in elected politics. I have no desire. At my age, the only new career that a person my age can start upon is pensioner. And I refuse to take part in elections.
Listen, we're gonna deal with this issue here, because this is why I say to the people, because I have Mr. Corbin here, but we need to come back to this after Mr. Corbin leaves, because this is why I say to people, this is the true opposition. It's the people. We are not connected with any political party, and that would be a shame, because you know more about the pension situation than all of them put together. So that is such a shame. But we are going to come back. Don't make sure as soon as Mr. Corbin is going to speak to us, and he's our guest tonight, and then he's one of our guests tonight, and then we need to, when we're closing off the program, we need to get back to that. That is very, very important. Oh my goodness, this is serious. But anyway, Mr. Corbin, welcome, welcome.
Good evening, Marcy. How are you?
I am doing great. I am doing great. I don't know if you heard the flyer that was on this program earlier, from a one Miss Apostle Breedy, Margaret Breedy, about these IDs, and we started to call for a boycott of the pinning of the IDs. And she was asking, telling Barbados to break the spell, Barbados, and calling for a boycott of the pinning of the IDs. And just before you jump into your topic, because you're going to talk about another thing that is happening, we're going to get into that. But I want your thoughts on this. Do you agree that Bajans should boycott the pinning of these IDs?
Absolutely. 100%. I think that the most important thing that any righteously minded Barbadian who understands the principles of the evil agenda that is now an existential threat to our very existence in this country needs to take the pertinent steps. And if they are thinking towards the preservation not only of their status as a sovereign national of this country, that they should completely ignore and disassociate themselves with anything to do with digital identification in all shapes or forms.
Mm. So you totally agree with this. Do you think that Bajans will boycott it?
I do not know if Barbadians are ready because a lot of people do not understand the technology that is poised for emergence from the digital identification. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people do not understand that the algorithm that controls the computer digital algorithm that controls the digital ID is the property of the government and the property of the offshore entities that control the government. All right. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a captured state, such as Barbados, who is operating as the crew in charge under the auspices of not having a constitution and with the absence of Westphalian national sovereignty, you will get this kind of thing happening where they follow the instructions of the offshore entities that are controlling them because of financial obligations. And you find that the people of the country are now disenfranchised simply because the instructions on the policies that have been handed down from the global public private partnership contravene the interests of the public who are trying to make ends meet in a situation that they do not understand. And it is now becoming readily apparent to the public that the technology that is being implemented in the digital ID and the pinning of the card for the digital ID is directly targeting the privacy of the sovereign nationals of this country. It is targeting the ability for the sovereign nationals of this country to operate as sovereign nationals because of degrading their privacy, and it is creating what is known as a surveillance capitalist state where the population is becoming slaves to the state. And the surveillance capitalism is becoming the prevalent policy of control. And that must never be allowed to to happen in a country that so-called proclaims democratic sovereignty. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have any democratic sovereignty anymore. This is a dictatorship, and we need to wake up to that fact and have that conversation. Okay, and Mr. Caswell is probably one of the most knowledgeable people with regard to what a dictatorship is because he has been in Parliament for a lot longer than I have even existed on this planet. Okay, and the most important thing that we have to understand, we need to have a conversation on dictatorship. And we need to have an understanding and a conversation that how dictatorship turns into totalitarianism and how the surveillance capitalism comes about as a result of the slow implementation of this kind of technology and digital identification, which seeks to control a population at the behest of the dictatorship. And we have to stand against it. Non-compliance, mass non-compliance. The thing is, a lot of people don't understand that in this particular age, we
Mm-hmm.
have the power within we have the power as a collective of the sovereign nationals of the population to just say no. All we have to say no. Sorry, not doing it.
Yeah.
We hold the power. We the people hold the power. And a lot of problems that we have and the reason that people do not understand is that we are subjects in a society that has been socially conditioned to believe that the government is the all-knowing power over our lives. We have had a society that has started out with British colonial imperial indoctrination, where the white man in power at Government House dictated the policy to those who were under him, and the government of England dictated what was going to happen in our country. We then had the town criers who were put out on the street corners and so on. They used to wear white cork hats and so on, and they would read the instructions of the British colonial imperial masters to the population. And this was the decree that you had to understand and you had to go abide by. Then, as technology progressed, we came to radio, and we used to, gather around the person in the community that had the radio to listen to what the government had to tell us to do. And then television came along, and so on. And all of this has led to a social conditioning of the population where we have been hearing for 175 years the town criers on the street corners telling us what to do. Then the radio came along to tell us what to do. Then the TV came along so that we could actually see what to do and hear what to do. And then all of that was reinforced from the pulpit of the churches on Sunday morning. And once it came from the churches on Sunday morning, whatever had been said during the week became gospel. And at the end of the day, we end up with a socially conditioned population that persons who understand the politics of social control, such as the prime minister of this country, can very readily take a population and control it, wrap it around their little finger, and do as they will, do as they
Right.
please.
Exactly.
Particularly when you have a society that is controlled by outside entities with the sword of Damocles of finance hanging over their heads.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
we're
the only way to break that spell
mhm.
is every single Barbadian, righteously minded Barbadian, just say no. Let that become our slogan. Just
Just
say
say
no.
no, and to break the spell. Now, I thank you for that introduction and that endorsement of, not pinning the IDs. Now, there's another matter that is connected in my mind. It's connected to the same IDs, and that is the closing down of one of Hill Milling. I think it's called Hill Milling, their factory there that produces food for Barbados. And I think by the time you're finished speaking, people will see the connection with the digital system, and at least in being part of that system, and how it affects our food supply. What kind of food we get, where we get our food from. So can you kind of transition for me into that situation that is happening in Barbados as it relates to this particular company?
Well, this particular company has for years been a staple for the lower income population of our society. Hill Milling and Lionel C. Hill in Roebuck Street have been stalwart suppliers of basic food needs for the lower income families of our country. And I don't think that there's a single Barbadian that doesn't know about Hill Milling and that doesn't know about Lionel C. Hill. And this is a company that goes back over 80 years in Barbados. Old Man Hill and his father before him um, started this particular business for the betterment of the lower income population of this country. And it is sad to see that they are being targeted by what can only be described as another offshore policy that falls in the category of famine. And when I say that, this is not famine by means of physical starvation where you are physically putting people out to pasture without food or locking them into cages and not feeding them. This is famine by political policy where you can target a company that has the least ability to resist the policy based upon what apparently, from what I can see, to be a fraudulent narrative where they have been accused of not having hygiene in the workplace and so on. Now, we have a Ministry of Health, and we have to understand that under under the Health Services Act, the minister has the responsibility, and I quote, um, in paragraph 4 of section 3 to 4, it says the minister shall be responsible for the administration of this act, and without limiting the generality of the foregoing, his functions shall include, and paragraph D says, control of food and drugs in the interests of the public health and the seizure and destruction of food and drugs that do not comply with this act or any regulations, and the protection of the public from fraud or deception in connection with food or drugs. Now, it is obvious that anybody understanding what the minister would have the capacity to do is to say, well, this food company does not meet the regulations as under the Health Act, and we are seizing certain products and so on for the destruction and so on until you can clean up your act and get back in action. But we have not seen any evidence to prove that Hill Milling has been given the permission to reopen its businesses once it aligns itself with the minister's wishes or the Health Act regulations. I'm not saying that they're not in the process of doing so. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Understand one thing very clearly. I do believe that there is some dialogue going on behind the scenes that we may not know anything about, but we have to understand how it appears to the person on the ground and how it appears to persons who are awake, such as myself and other persons who understand what the global policy that is being implemented across the Caribbean region by the World Economic Forum that is being held over the heads of political entities in this region. And that is famine, reducing the capacity of food supply to become readily available to the populations. And our population that is most in need are the lower income, simply because in any society, the lower income population is the first to be affected by economic stress. And what we have to understand is that there are three very fundamental things to the policies that are being put in place by the World Economic Forum and being implemented very slowly and gradually into Barbados and across the Eastern Caribbean region. And I like to refer to these, as a friend of mine who updated me on this, we call them the Three Musketeers. So the Three Musketeers, number one is migration, pandemics, and famine. And we know that the Prime Minister of Barbados has signed Barbados onto the International Migration Organization, IMO. For what reason, we don't know, but I know what the reason is. I know what the reason is. And that is because she has publicly stated that climate change events will cause mass migration in the Caribbean region. She told us this was happening, okay? When she arrived back in Barbados from the COP27 conference in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt of last year. She said publicly to Barbadians at a press conference that migration of the Caribbean region would be affected by climate events, okay? Those were her words. I'm just quoting what she said. In addition to that, we now have the re-emergence of pandemics, okay, so-called pandemics by the Criminal World Health Organization, the second largest criminal organization on the planet after the International Monetary Fund. And then when you have migration, pandemics, and famine, you have the disconnection of society at every single level. And if you are implementing the policy of the World Economic Forum by reducing food supply, you're going to target those corporations that are easiest to target legislatively. And a small operation like Hill Milling is vulnerable because they're not particularly part of the so-called white social partnership. the big stores like Massey and Cost You Less and Price Smart and so on and so forth, who have political interests, vested political interest. We don't know if Hill Milling has any vested political interest, and we're not interested in that. We're interested in preserving the integrity of a lower income modality in food supply for our people. And that must be the issue that is raised. Why is a company that is providing food staples to the lower income uh, people of this society being targeted? That is what we want to know. And that is an issue that has got to be addressed. We, as the people who are in the know, who understand what is happening around us in the world today, we need to bring this issue to the public's attention. We have the power. We have the power to stand for those who don't think that they have a voice. And the lower income society of our country feel and they believe that they don't have a voice. So we have to speak for them. We have to defend them. We are standing for them. And even if we are standing alone, we are standing for everyone.
Yeah.
And I've said this before.
You're saying, so let's break it down. Thank you so much for being here. But you're saying that someone says here that you're not getting you can't get the enough cornmeal and rice and flour. So then we don't have a lot of those local, foods on the shelves. So wouldn't that be pushing up prices? Because
Of
then
course
you're
it
going
would
to
be.
have things are going to, so then it's going to be very difficult for the average Barbadian, the working class Barbadian, poor Barbadians to find food. No, someone might say, but hill milling wasn't there, wasn't it just rat infestation? So why is there an issue? It's their fault. Someone said
Well,
it's a rat infestation.
well, hang on a second. Okay, it's a rat infestation. So let's look at this from the reality point of view. Hill milling has a rat infestation problem. Let us go due north for less than 2 miles from Hill milling, and you have Roberts Manufacturing. Have you ever been into Roberts Manufacturing yard around 11:30 and seen the rats in the yard?
All right, so
Well, let me. Well, no,
we're
no, no. So,
alleging that this is
so,
what, yeah.
so let me just
Because we
tell you
don't
one
want
thing.
to put something out that people saying,
No,
that
hang on a
Roberts
second.
have rats,
One
right?
second. One second. One second.
Mhm.
Okay. I have personally shot rats in Roberts Manufacturing Yard by request of management. Okay.
Okay.
In addition to that, Roberts Manufacturing has about 10,000 pigeons nesting around the building. So if there's going to be an infection, why don't we just address the issue nationally and look at all of the food processing facilities and say, gentlemen, let's call a meeting and say, gentlemen, Hill has a problem with rat infestation. We need to have a control mechanism in place that everybody puts proper regulation in place. Make sure your companies are cleaned up, and let's expand towards serving our people better by not having that problem. If you want to see rats, go to Mangrove Pond. That's a government facility. That's a dump, yes. But if you want to see rats in St. Thomas, they have more rats in St. Thomas than the population of St. Peter, St. Thomas, and Christchurch combined. Okay? If you doubt me, just take a drive up there any night. Have a look around. Okay? At the end of the day, this is the pertinent issues. We have to ask these questions. If there's going to be a policy for one, the policy has to be for all. So if you are going to interdict a small man, make sure that the big people understand their position too. Don't come and interdict a small man that is helping the people on the ground. Don't do it, because you are making enemies of the people who you are then going to come and want to laugh up in their face and get a vote. No, I'm sorry. It has to be one policy for all, or no policy at all. Okay?
I've sat here and I've listened to that. And what you're saying is not totally true. Hill's Milling and Hill Supermarket was rat infested for years.
I totally agree with that.
All right? For years. I know of a situation where there was rats swimming in the cooking oil, and old man says take out the oil and hit it in the ground and sell the oil. I know that.
That's fine. No problem at all.
I know that.
I understand that. I understand that, Caswell.
My people who are inspectors, they went to the property and they use what the people call a black light, but it's actually ultraviolet thing. And it glowed in the dark. When it glowed in the dark, that's rat urine.
Yep.
It was there. The government had every right. I am not going to curse the government for everything they do.
No.
That place wanted closing down, and they want closing down long. As a matter of fact, I told my wife don't buy nothing from them. This is not just recently, and because of that, the dirtiness up there, and the fact that they treat people like garbage up there. This same man fired people because they wouldn't take the job.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So he
So
getting
there's.
come up on snow, and I have no sympathy for him.
I totally agree.
They had weevils in some of the containers with the food that you were going to sell, and they were dumped as well. I don't know if they targeted him, but they had a right to target him because his place was a mess. I go to Roberts Manufacturing every day. I have never seen rats in the yard. They got every day, every working day I go to Roberts Manufacturing. I've never seen rats in the yard. I go there twice a day.
Okay. Have you been at night?
I can tell you.
Have you been at night?
I've never been there at night.
Ah, right. Okay.
One of the people there, nice boy, shoot me. But I can tell you, I have never seen them there in the day, and I
No,
know
of course not.
There is a guy who works there who is responsible, and he's always betting.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. But
Yeah.
I also know for a fact that Hill Milling should be closed years. They got away with too much nastiness for too long.
If I may interject there,
yes.
if I may interject there, Mr. Castle, not to cross you.
Please,
I completely and totally agree with your perspective. And we all understand the challenges that Hill Milling has got themselves into. We understand all of that. But I want to put all of that aside now in order to be able to understand the policy that is being implemented across the region, because Hill Milling is only one company. Okay? And I completely agree with your perspective. I know all this. I know all of the nastiness that has been going on over there. And if I was the health inspector or the minister of health, I would shut him down long ago too. But I would also have a situation in place where if I'm going to close you down, you have to give me a commitment within 3 months that this building and everything in it is going to have a complete different policy of operation, a complete different policy of employment, and a complete policy of distribution of proper food products. If you're unwilling to do that, then I am going to close you permanently. Okay? Now, let us look at the overall issue that we have here. Simply because one individual who is not maintaining hygienic standards is now disenfranchising the lower income population as well. So now we have a population that doesn't understand why they can't get food, but yet people are pointing their fingers and saying, well, this is a situation that could come under control, but is not being brought under control. So who do we hold responsible? It's not that we have to hold somebody responsible and point fingers and blame and so on. We need to address this problem from the top down. The government needs to give Mr. Hill the regulations and say, this is what you have to achieve within 3 months. If you don't achieve it, you will not reopen. Mm-hmm. And the management of Hill Milling needs to comply with those regulations so that the middle income and the lower income population of this country can resume purchasing the correct foodstuffs for their sustenance. It is not rocket science, and it needs to be addressed. No, the larger issue, which is what we understand as a global policy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the larger issue. Let us speak now to the larger issue. We're jumping straight to the top of the ladder. The larger issue is this. The larger issue is that the Caribbean region, not just Barbados, the Caribbean region is being not only interdicted by policies that we have no control over because they're being dictated to us by the global public-private partnership administered by the World Economic Forum, put in place by other entities, and then the Caribbean prime ministers and policy management are being told what to do. And one of those policies is famine, reducing the food supply to our sovereign nations. And people in the Caribbean region are now experiencing this. And the thing is, what supports the reduction of food supply to our region is when action like this against Hill Milling has been taken. I'm not saying that's unwarranted. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming the Minister of Health or the health officials. This is warranted action. But there should also be a policy of recovery. If there is a policy of recovery, then the lower income population does not have to worry about their food supply being cut off or high food prices having to be paid from another supplier who may not look at it the same way. This is another incident of where we have to break this spell, where we have to encourage business owners to clean up their act, get their act together by a certain time, and re-enter the market better than they have ever done before. Because you know why? We have a mission to preserve life in this country. Enough life is being lost every single day because of nefarious, treasonous policies that have been put in place that are now taking the lives of innocent Barbadians. And at the end of the day, food supply must never be one that takes the lives of our people. Never. It must be supported at every single step of the game. And the global policies that are being put in place need to be rejected out of hand. Okay?
Yeah.
That's bottom
And
line.
so the bottom line. So this what you're saying, this issue of famine, that through the WF and all of them, all these different organizations, that you believe that they're trying to, put that on countries. Do you see a connection with that, with the digital ID? Let's take another 5 minutes, and then
Of
we
course.
will move on to another
Okay.
segment.
Okay. Well, the thing is, what we have to understand is that the policy of the World Economic Forum is to deprive populations of food by introducing famine and then drive people toward a digital identification for them to be able to access food. If you have a disenfranchised population from a food supply who has been disconnected from their usual food supply, and they're then offered and told, or they're coerced by the government to take a digital ID in order to access that same food supply from a different source, then you're you're coercing your population towards a totalitarian state. And at the end of the day, this is they're denying the basic right of lower income populations to build the autonomous free market systems that will promote wealth, increases regional prosperity. And one of the things that we have to understand is that when you actually reduce food supply to a population, you have a complete disinterest in your environment. Thereby, you promote disease and so on and so forth because people don't care anymore. Okay. And when you have that, you now are subscribing to the narrative of pandemics because more disease starts to come in because people are not living as cleanly as possible because the only thing that they have the only money that they do have is trying to survive. And when you are only surviving, you care nothing about your environment because you are too poor to do anything else. So you poor people actually promote the presence of pandemics and disease, which feeds the narrative that pandemics need to be controlled and people need to be controlled as a result. One of the most important things you have to understand about this situation, okay, is that when people can actually eat properly, when they can be prosperous, when they can have wealth as a result of a prosperous society,
Mhm.
their environmental consciousness goes up by 100%. Immediately, they start to clean up things around the place and start to live better and so on, and things start to get tidied up, and you have a reduction of disease and all that sort of stuff going on. This is an established fact because I've seen it happen in Africa, where you move into somewhere and so on, and once you put things in place and people are eating properly and prosperity returns, particularly to war-torn districts, you get a cleanup of the situation immediately and the environment improves, thereby people's health improves and so on, and you don't have this disconnection happening. So we must understand the connection between driving the disconnection of food from the population and how digital IDs can be used now as a tool to coerce that same population that cannot afford to buy food but can only have a supply from the government. And when the government is building a food supply network dependent on coercing people to come to them for food supply, the digital ID is held as the carrot on the stick. Because if you get the digital ID, you'll get something to eat.
Mhm. Understood. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Corbin. We need you to come back. Hopefully, you can join us again. I'll be in touch with you. But it's quite interesting and something for us to look into, because once our food supply is decreased or it is limited, then we're going to have problems, high prices, and it's going to definitely affect the those who are, you know, working class, and the poor. But we're going to run on to another topic. Thank you so much, Mr. Carbon. Thanks for your passion, for those who can't speak for themselves. It's an honor having you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Marcy. Have
Yeah.
a good night.
Yes.
But
Right.
I like Mr. Corbin and I like his passion. I think it is misplaced now. All right. I understand. Let me do something. Hill supermarket, nice Hill supermarket, and the Hill Miller that was spawned from it should have been closed years ago. I do not support and I will never support what happens in that place. That let me tell you something. The old man Hill, when he died, his full announcement says father of 4 children and by name, and then many others. You want to know what those many others were? Children from his staff. You know, that place has been abusive and nasty for too long. And I was wondering when the government can move in and shut it down. And they did it now. And thankfully, I would never let it sit open back. Father of 4 and many others, all kind of stuff. He was just like a certain person's grandfather who used to be there every other woman in the city. You know, so I don't have any sympathy for them.
And
They
I,
were
I
feeling
understand that, but I think Mr. Corbyn is looking at another issue, and I'm choosing to focus on that issue, the issue where
I,
I would say he's probably asking the question, are we inducing the reduction of food supply? But as you
I'd
said,
rather have
yes.
a reduction in food supply than a whole set of unwholesome food because that will produce disease in Barbados. I like Mr. Corbyn, I like his passion, like everything, but this time he's off base. I don't know if there's any agenda about reducing food. I don't know that for a fact. But what I can tell you is I would like to see the food reduced by the food that is produced by Hill Milling.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I see Mr. Strickland is here, and we did say that we're gonna take the rest of this show, and we're gonna talk a bit. Ooh, what is that noise? Hello, is it me? Okay, so we're having the
It's someone's
same kind of.
microphone. It's someone's
Okay,
microphone.
yes, Mr. Strickland, are you listening to the program? Are you? If you're listening to the program, please turn it off.
Okay, good night.
Yes,
You
good
can
night.
hear me? Right, you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, but whenever I speak, there's a noise.
I
You
am
have
not sure. Is it mine?
Yes, it's yours.
you have
Uh,
the
uh,
show on in the background. Are you listening
Are
to
you
anything in the
listening to
background,
the
Mr.
show?
Strickland?
just give me a minute. Just
Yes.
Yeah,
give me a minute. Should
yeah,
I?
yeah. Mute your mic and turn it off. Right. All right.
Okay, so if you're listening to the show, turn it off completely. Somebody, whoever is listening to, they have to turn it off or put on headphones.
Yeah.
Yes, and probably you will be able to hear it afterwards.
Just give me 1 minute.
Yes, yes, yes. Go ahead. We will start our discussion while you sort it out. Okay. So he's going to start it out.
All right. Marcia, and message you.
Oh, you message me. Okay. All right. Let me check that. Okay. In the meantime, we want to close out the show. We have another 45 minutes, and we want to talk about pension, and in the context that this is a topic that is so very, very important to Barbados, very, very important to Barbadians and to Barbados at this time. And if you want to see Mr. Strickland on, right, you know what time it is. He's dropped off now. But this is a good way to segue into this that is on this is on our screen, which I think is a good idea. We want to be able. I think it's why I think it's good because there are lots of people who in Barbados, Mr. Franklin, still don't understand about what's happening with the pensions and what it means for them. With these pension reforms and the bill and so on. Okay. And okay, he's back. Let's see. Okay, I know what I'm going to have to do. I will have to keep your mic closed and open it whenever you have to speak. Okay, so we will address it like that. So let's. I know that there are, and my thought was that this is good because the education needs to continue educating the masses. We need to continue, and so this is a good idea. What do you all think? Yeah, I think this is a good idea for Mr. Franklin to be speaking next Sunday at the St. Peter branch. I think it's great. I don't know all the laws of the DLP. Let me hasten to say I don't know the laws of any political party. I'm not part of it. I don't know. So I don't know if it is breaking any laws, and if anybody out there can let us know if any laws are being broken, then you can let us know in this happening. But I think that the purpose of this would have been to educate. So, Mr. Let's start with Mrs. Strickland. Mrs. Strickland, what are your thoughts about you? Do you think that this will be a means of educating the people of St. Peter about the national insurance pension reform and other issues affecting the communities? What do you think?
Okay. Good night. It's very, very interesting that I don't know whether Caswell is affiliated to a political party.
I'm not.
I am not. I am not. I was invited to speak at the St. Michael Southeast branch of the DLP a couple of Sundays ago, and I spoke on national insurance. On that occasion, there seemed to be some disquiet in respect of me speaking at that meeting. Um, Within the last 12 hours, I have received information which suggests that Caswell's invitation is being challenged. I'm not certain in which quarters, but if it is very unfortunate because both Caswell and myself, we are about educating Barbadians. Whether we receive an invitation from the DLP, the BLP, a church, this show in Bridgetown, we're about educating Barbadians. And so if his invitation is being challenged within the Democratic Labour Party, then it means that the first word in the party, Democratic, would need to be removed. Because I believe that within the branches, each of them should have some level of authority on who they allow to speak on a what topic. Now, sufficient on that matter, I really want to thank you, Marcia, and all of the organizers for the continual marches that we've had in Bridgetown. Because as we travel along the road, it means that a different section of the community are exposed to information. In other words, there are those who are whether in Cheapside, on Broad Street, Independence Square. They are given the opportunity to be informed about what is happening in Barbados because our television station CBC will not educate Barbadians on the things that matter most. For me, as a national insurance professional. I prefer to say professional in that no longer work at the National Insurance Department, but there are some areas that are of great concern for me, and should be of great concern to all Barbadians. Now, yesterday I would have spoken in respect of certain statements coming out not from the National Insurance Department, and I want to make it clear what is being stated by William Adams, Deputy Chairman of the Board, is not from the National Insurance Department. That is from the National Insurance Board and the consultants attached to the board. Whether the Director of National Insurance is party to those statements is anyone's guess. Sufficient that those persons who are speaking in the media are not checking with the professionals within the department, knowing what the legislation and the policy is. Now, 1 in 7 self-employed persons in Barbados are paying contributions. This was stated in the last actuarial report. 1 in 7 self-employed persons are paying contributions. From way back when we had the 8% pay cut, there was a lot of changes in our employment environment where a number of companies both downsized and they merged. So there was a proliferation of self-employed businesses, those being security firms, cleaning firms, courier services. There were a lot of business that developed at that time. And unfortunately, the department never did anything or hardly anything to capture that growing number of self-employed persons. In 2020, when COVID came, that was tremendously increased based on the fact that a lot of persons that were laid off were in the 60 and over age group, along with other persons, so that, again, nothing was done to capture those persons within the self-employed arena. I spoke at the St. Peter Town Hall meeting and made a suggestion how we can capture those individuals. I repeated it at the DLP branch meeting only just recently, and Barbados today carried the extract of my statement, which was very, very clear. It is not an attempt to go after self-employed persons. It's an attempt, my suggestion is an attempt to protect self-employed persons against themselves. Now, we in Barbados have there are a lot of myths. And there's this myth that because I'm a born Barbadian, I'm a citizen of Barbados, I am entitled to a pension. That ended in 1996. In that, once you were gainfully, it was from the beginning, once you are gainfully employed, whether as a self-employed person or as an employed person, for $21 a week or more, you are expected by law to pay contributions. So that a number of Barbadians who are self-employed, that other 7 in 8, are of the opinion that they will qualify for a non-contributory pension, having not paid either any contributions or enough contributions to receive a contributory pension. And during my last 3 years, when I came back to assist with the influx of unemployment and then sickness benefits, I had the discomfort of having to interact with a lot of persons 60 years and over who, not having had enough contributions, to realize that when they are interviewed for the non-contributory pension and it was found that they were working for $21 per week or more, that pension will be disallowed, and therefore that individual will not get a pension in Barbados at all. So for those out there who believe that I am after self-employed person, it's to the contrary. My object is to educate them that they are obligated by law to pay national insurance, and therefore, when they reach pensionable age, they, all things being equal, between the age of 16 and 67 at present, they have at least the 10 years contributions to get a contributory pension. Now, there are the consultants and the board, in the quest to get self-employed persons to pay contributions, they are attempting to enable self-employed persons to receive employment injury. Now, let me explain how employment injury works. One, the employer pay the employment injury contribution. The employee does not pay towards the employment injury contribution portfolio. So if you want self-employed persons to benefit from employment injury, the first thing you've got to do is increase the contribution of self-employed from 17.10 to add the 0.25 to that in order for them to qualify for employment injury. Second, and this is the most ridiculous part, now, if a person was injured, when you receive your yellow form from the doctor and you determine that what is wrong with you was as a result of an accident or bodily disablement in the course of your employment, then you fill the reverse side of the form indicating when it happened, where it happened, the time it happened, what you were doing. All of those questions have to be answered. On receipt of that claim, the National Insurance Department, in turn, prepare an employment injury report, which is sent to your employer for the employer to answer basically the same questions, so that the department is in a position to determine whether that individual will qualify for employment injury or not. Now, when you're going to say open the floodgate, as it were, to self-employed persons, who are you going to send that report to? You're going to send the same person that sent in the form in the original state indicating what happened? Who is there to verify that if I am an auto mechanic and I said that I was burnt, I was not burnt on my stove? Or maybe not in my case, but the person's wife or girlfriend burned them. And therefore, there have been no thought, as far as I'm concerned, gone into the aspect of allowing persons to receive employment injury. But it goes further than that, because once that person qualifies for employment injury, they're entitled to receive, to make application for a refund of medical expenses, traveling, both local and overseas, for life. After 1 year, that individual can then make a claim for disablement. And if that person is having been assessed by the doctor and is given, say, 30% or more, then that person receives a disablement pension for life. If it is under 30%, depend on the salary, that person can get a disablement grant of maybe $50,000, $60,000. You're talking about one person. So I don't know who is advising the board. And the worst part about it is National Insurance has been engaged in transition, has been in transition mode for the last little over a year. And only recently, the staff received the terms and conditions by email. No discussion with the staff. The staff are terrified. When I say terrified, in some cases, that is putting it mildly. Some persons cannot sleep at night because they have to make a decision on whether to go with the board, knowing the political interference, the political dictatorship at this present moment, the first in the history of the National Insurance Department, or going into remaining in the public service. The Prime Minister addressed the whole issue of transition in a press statement to the public just before she proceeded on vacation. For me, that was a very, very unfortunate situation because there have been no proper interaction between either the union, the National Union of Public Workers, or the board with the staff. And therefore, persons are left to advise themselves. I was made to understand that my friend, Mr. Franklin, visited the office recently to engage some of the staff in a meeting. That's right, Mr. Franklin. And I was
Right.
made to understand he had a very large gathering. No, Mr. Franklin,
Not
you had a
large
comment?
enough.
Hello?
Yeah, not large enough.
Out of a staff complement of nearly 300, Mr. Franklin told me he had about 20 because people were afraid to come out in front of the building and stand up and speak to Mr. Franklin. That's the level of fear that exists in the National Insurance Department right now. It's not just a case of fear in Barbados, because it's widespread in Barbados. But within the department, there is widespread fear. And therefore, an attempt needs to be made by the National Union of Public Workers. And I'm speaking on behalf of all staff members, from the director back down. An attempt needs to be made by the National Union of Public Workers or another union to sit down and to make a proposal to the board on terms and conditions for the national insurance staff. Now, based on my knowledge, Barbados is the only social security scheme in the Caribbean whereby the staff are managed by central government. They are managed by the board. So the decision to go for the staff to a total board has been up of mind for years. Because when you check for the other social security schemes, who manage the kind of fund that they do manage, and we manage a fund at present of $4.something billion. When it says manage, I mean totally manage. They have investment officers, they have a contingent of lawyers, accountants, you name it. There's no assistance from central government, but the staff cannot benefit from anything at present being civil servants. It is unfortunate you want to take them to be employed by the board and have not offered them terms and conditions whereby they're entitled to bonus, they're entitled to paternity leave, like the TVET Council that became a board recently. Yes, we don't have to go to. These are things that are in existence in other social security schemes in Barbados. I mean, in the Caribbean, and therefore, any union which is attempting or do represent the workers need to look for the best terms and conditions for the staff before they transition into a board. Because as soon as they transition into the board, because it means that only the appointed officers really have a say. The temporary officers don't have a say. They have to go with the board because their contract is 1 day's notice on either side. There are a number of contract workers. I was one of them up until mid-June this year. There are a number of contract workers at the National Insurance Department. They obviously have to go with the board. But even those workers are uncomfortable based on that factor. So within the National Insurance, going back now to the whole issue of the board wanted to make certain decisions. Now, with the new changes that are being proposed, we should not be where we are today. I shared it yesterday for the benefit for those who were in attendance, and I'm going to share it again tonight. Now, the political decision by the present Prime Minister, when leader of the opposition, to grant non-contributory pensioners an increase was the first step in destroying the National Insurance Fund. Because when I recognized what was happening, I spoke about it. Unfortunately, I was the returning officer for St. Lucie, and I don't know if I was replaced because of my view, but I could not be silent. So while I was making that statement in 2018 during campaigning, the, when Arthur was making the same statement, because he was well aware that when you gave the non-contributory pensions the kind of increase you were giving them just to win government, you were obligated to give the contributory pensioners from the minimum up an increase. Now, from 2006, all pensioners, based on the pension reform in 2006, there was a statutory increase every year for pensioners. So even when civil service did not get an increase for about 8 years, pensioners got an increase. So there was no need, even though my mother's a pensioner, my great aunt who was 108 is a pensioner, I don't believe there was any need to rush and give the kind of increases that were given to the detriment of the scheme. And therefore, when then you turn around and wrote off $1.3 billion of National Insurance Fund, and I'm going back again to the unions, because our unions, well, the Barbados Workers Union and the NUPW must be very specific. They have sold us out, they're selling us out, and they continue to sell us out, maybe for political gain. And they make no apologies for it. Simply because both of those unions have a permanent seat on the National Insurance Board. So they are privy up front of all decisions being made. That is if they are consulted. I mean, the board is consulted by the Prime Minister. But they have a permanent seat because they're responsible for protecting the employees' portion of the National Insurance Fund. The Barbados Employees Confederation, the Hotel Association, they also, as far as I'm concerned, have been implicit in helping to destroy the National Insurance Fund, because a certain section of that fund is the employer's portion being contributed. So there are 4 of the 9 members on the board, the other 2 being the chief labor officer, who is actually a civil servant and supposed to represent the Labor Department, and the Director of Finance, Mr. Ian Carrington, who is supposed to protect the interests of the fund as far as a civil servant is concerned, and not a political person. I worked with Mr. Carrington for many years. I have tremendous respect for him, but at this present moment, what is happening, very disappointed, along with the other 3 political appointees. And therefore, for what has happened in this whole situation, nothing has been said whereby this Prime Minister or another Prime Minister cannot go and decide, I'm going to write off another $1 billion that is owed by whoever, and bring us back to where we are, which we should not be in after pension reform in 2006. So these are the serious situations that do exist. Now, there were 2 changes. There were some changes that were made, the most recent being, I think, on Thursday. Now, in 2019, the Child Care Board, National Conservation Commission, National Sports Council, and some of these boards, I don't believe if any consultation with them, their terms and conditions were changed, whereby appointed officers who would normally qualify for 21 days sick leave in the first case, which can be extended up to 1 year at full pay, and then another 6 months at half pay. Their terms and conditions will change overnight without their knowledge, whereby now they qualify for 21 days sick leave with pay, and after that they have to apply to the National Insurance Department for their sick leave, which is very unfortunate. So you have persons, unfortunately, who, because of the degree of their illness, they have to be medically boarded. And sometimes it takes forever for some of those individuals to go before the medical board. And therefore, they struggle with financial challenges after, in some cases, persons working up to 40 years. And now they're reduced to this. But of all departments or institutions, BRA, on Thursday, BRA received an email, and I believe that there are well over 1,000 staff members in BRA, which would comprise the License Authority, the VAT Office, Income Tax, and Land Tax. They were sent an email saying that their terms and conditions have been changed or will be changed, whereby they follow now what has happened with the others. And based on statements being made, the changes to national insurance, it means that national staff will now have to appoint officers and having to apply to themselves to get self-employed. How sad, how sad. Traditions and cultures that the older generation fought hard for. People like Frank Walcott, Evelyn Graves, Bobby Morris, those that fought in the Barbados Workers Union, some that gave of their life for the workers of Barbados. But the present leader of the Barbados Workers Union over and over falls to the wishes of the government of Barbados. Now, as I said yesterday, when there was the by-election in St. George, when Mr. Tony Moore was canvassing for election, I sat in dismay to hear the Prime Minister on her platform indicating that she was bringing on workers, home care workers. Now, there are home health workers with NAB. These people were being brought on, and they were going to be paid, subject to correction, $400 per week as a stipend. When I heard the word stipend, I automatically knew that national insurance was not going to be taken from their salary. Now, I believe that they're still working. And I believe at this present moment, national is being taken off from their salary. Simply because there were those workers that were brought on for the ASH program, National Beautification, whatever name you want to put it, label it as. And from the commencement, those staff, nationals was never taken from the staff's salary. As soon as a decision was made that their contract would end on the 31st of March 2023, becoming unemployed on the 1st of April 2023. The question was, will these staff, these persons qualify for unemployment? So a decision was taken to pay the contributions on their behalf, both employee and employer's contribution, you know. From July of 2022 to December. Now, if you become unemployed from the 1st of April, you need 20 weeks between April of 22 and December of 23. December of 22. Between April of 22 and December of 22. So what they did, they paid for July to December 26 weeks to enable our staff to get unemployment for the purpose of getting unemployment. Well, unfortunately, all of those workers, their unemployment, those former workers, sorry, their unemployment will cease at the end of this month. Because at the end of this month will be 6 months that they're entitled to this unemployment. So you know what's going to happen? It's a mass rippling effect across our society. Because these are, I think, well over 3,000 people that unemployment benefit, which has been their lifeline for the last 6 months, for these 6 months, will end. and they cannot receive unemployment until the 1st of October 2024.
Wow. Let me just pause there. Let me just pause there because I will have to turn off your mic. Let me
No
try
problem.
and find your mic. We're having some serious feedback. It's such a pity because I want to be able to go back and forth with him, so I just have to let him speak straight because of his microphone situation. But this is some such important information, and I know you're ready to go, Mr. Franklin. I wanted you and him to be back and forth, but because of the technical thing, I just had to let him go. But you know what is interesting is I'm listening here, and this man is educating. Somebody said, who is this guy? Who is he speaking? This is Mr. Stephen Strickland. That's why I moved everything so you could see his name, and who has been working at a high level in the NIS. Mr. Franklin will tell us more for years. He's also, I was told, a pastor, not associated with any political party. He's one of those pastors that have, have balls, I will say, and speaking up. And we appreciate him. And I'm so glad that you had a chance to speak at the last DLP at last week Sunday or 2 Sundays ago, in St. Michael, I think, wherever you spoke, because the education is important. This is what this man is doing. This is a reputable man that is speaking, and I'm so happy. And it's unfortunate, Mr. Franklin, that someone with such information, they don't want either him nor you to speak at any DLP branch meeting. What is going on, Mr. Franklin?
I do not know because um, I don't know. I offended the president because a couple months back I was walking snow through West Terrace and he saw me and he said he wanted to be able to talk with me and discuss pensions because they know about pension stuff. So from that, he never called. He took my number, but he never called. And now I'm the same Steve Blackie who invited me to become a candidate for St. Thomas in the last election. I told him I'm not interested. As a matter of fact, I then turned and I called the candidate's wife because she's a friend of mine. And I said to her, look, stop wasting your time. These people don't have a respect for your husband. They just offered me the position. She's on here now. She could verify that I actually told her because I see she's making a comment here just now. And all of a sudden now, those two people who loved me before, because they said that they're not standing up for the people of Barbados in respect of this thing, they probably took offense. I do not know, but I will continue to speak, and I will speak wherever they invite me. If the BLP branches invite, or BLP branches invite me, I will speak.
Yes, stay close to the mic. Stay close to the mic. Yeah.
If the BLP, Barbados Labour Party, if they invite me, I will go to and speak to them about pension reform. If the church group speak to me, call me, I will go. PTA is called, tea parties, I will go because this is too important. I am not doing this because I want to become a candidate or anything. Trust me when I tell you, Stephen and I, we have no ulterior motives to do what we do. We are not looking to become candidates in any political party. Right now, he has his hands full already, and I have mine more than full. So we are not looking for anything for ourselves. We just want to open people's eyes. And trust me when I tell you, I know Stephen for a lot of years because I also worked in national insurance, and I found him there. So he was over 40 years. He was wearing national insurance, so he knows his stuff. So I sat down and listened. You don't realize that then when he started talking about his self-employed, I started to laugh because he knew exactly where he was going. Because somebody has to see your accident or you have to report it to your boss. I am the boss. I own the place. I work for me, nobody else. I'm going to report the accident to me. And then I'm going to fill out the report. I'm going to put in the claim and then fill out the report verifying the accident. It is complete madness. The government reacts without thinking things through. The problem here, as Stephen mentioned earlier with the changing the terms and conditions of the statutory boards, that was a result of me again. When they were making people redundant in 2018, proposed to make people pay and send home people who were established in the public service, who were established workers at statutory boards, who did not pay the national insurance contribution. So I got up in the Senate and said, well, if you send home these people, what are they going to do? They're not going to get any pension. They're not going to get any unemployment benefits because they don't pay toward that. Because you pay less, well, you used to pay less national insurance if you were appointed at a statutory board or you were appointed in the public service. Because how the system was designed is that you will not be covered for unemployment benefits, you will not be covered for sickness benefits, and you will not be covered for severance. So as a result, your contribution was less. You paid less. You after that first year, national insurance pays 312 days, which is a year for national insurance, because they do not pay for Sundays. But in the public service, your terms and conditions said that you were entitled to up to a year's sick leave on full pay. Now, they have changed that. You have changed people's conditions of service without telling them, to their detriment. I don't mind if I change my terms and conditions by increasing my salary by 10% and not tell me anything. But I want you to know when you can take away certain conditions of service that I benefit from, and you don't tell me anything. And some boards did not get the email first when they first sent it out, because when I told them that it was wrong and they can't do it, you know their response? Their response said, "Oh, we can make everybody pay then." That was when they tried to correct them in the Senate, telling them they are doing wrong to these people. They can't send them home, because if you send them home, they will go home without anything until they reach 60. And the government way to fix that was to say, okay, well, we can make everybody pay. But when you make everybody pay, you did not change their conditions of service legally. This government is probably the worst employer Barbados ever had. I'm not talking about the worst government now. They are the worst government, but I'm talking about the worst employer. They treat workers as though they don't matter. They will give you a little something just before elections, and people are bought off with that. But a lot of them will die before the next election to come. They have sold themselves out by jumping on the bandwagon. She says, "Give me the vote and watch me." Well, you are watching them, and you're saying she's destroying you. She's taking notes, and the thing is, these are all things being done at the behest of the IMF, not anything about it. It's nothing coming from the National Insurance Board and saying, "Well, we want to make things better." No. Or the National Insurance staff saying, "Well, look, we can do things differently." No. The IMF said that you must do these things. And every other Prime Minister of Barbados, prior to her, told the IMF no. But she has to jump onto these people's thing, because the only body, as Kimara will tell you, that will lend us any money, you see, IMF and institutions like that, you're not going to get China. But then China will soon own half of Barbados. And we are sitting down and taking it. You cannot sit down and take it. If you continue to take it, then you look around. You will have nothing. Your Barbados will be owned by non-nationals and everything in here. Because it's happening now, you know. A lot of our businesses in Barbados are being overtaken by non-nationals. Bajans are selling out their businesses. And then the resulting employers, the people who come in, are treating Bajans like dirt. And we have a Minister of Labor who knows about it and sit down talking, I don't want to say nonsense, but I can't find a better word right now. Yeah, rubbish. And allowing people to come into Barbados and there's one company, I'm not going to call their name now because I have a case against them before the Employment Rights Tribunal. They have come in and they have black people working for them and white people working for them. The black people are, and the people work on commission, but the black people's commission are restricted to a certain amount. The white people can make unlimited commission, but they're telling black people you can make more commission than this. This is happening in Barbados today. I have that matter pending before the tribunal now, so I'm not going to give names or anything. That will come up when we have the case. But all of this is happening in Barbados. You know, they're giving the black fellas. As a matter of fact, the black fellas previously, when it was owned by Bajans, were allowed to sell as much the company stock and get the requisite commission. And they even tell the people, look, you can't sell certain things because these are the items that sell the most. And if you sell them, the white fella can get the commission. Because you go to the business and say, I'm here from this business. I say, oh, you sell A, B, C, D. I want all of them. You can't say, well, I'm not allowed to sell you A, B, C, D. I'm not allowed to sell D or C. You still got to take the order. When you're taking the order, somebody else get the commission. Most of the white fella. This is happening in Barbados, and this government is allowing it to happen. They know about it, and they just tell you they care nothing about the people of this country. They are treating the people like slaves or worse. And the thing is, we are taking it. Get up. If you don't get up, no, it's going to be too late.
Yes. You know, this has been a very, 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 very powerful show that we've had tonight. We have 4 minutes before we close. And I just want to say that I've learned so much. I don't know about you guys. I have learned so much from all of these speakers. We had such a variety of guests on the show. Apostle Brady was on, Fred Corbin, Winston Clark, Mr. Stephen Strickland, Caswell Franklin, who is, I mean, full of information. He's just spoke, and I mean, it is just loaded. I see someone here saying that we need to do, need to have more persons on. Listen, how many more tonight? We had what, 5 persons on tonight, okay? And a variety of people. And you know, and then they're saying, oh, we need to hear, and we try to put your comments up. All right, if we were to, even if we were on Zoom, that we need to go on Zoom. Our format of our show is not a format for Zoom. And anybody else who you might want to do something Zoom, that's fine, but that's not the format. The format that we do allows us to be streaming on 3 different platforms because we want the numbers, okay? So this is a format that we have. It's a broadcast format, and it is not a Zoom, okay? Just to bring that clarity for everybody. But before we go, I am waiting on an answer here because I don't want to just be saying things. I want to make sure. I just want to make sure that the DLP is whether or not the president is allowed, based on their constitution, to determine who speaks at a branch office, whether the branches are free to have their guest speakers. I was waiting to get that answer. Somebody sent me something, but I don't fully understand what is said, because these 2 men on the screen here, when it comes on to anything with pensions, in the last couple of weeks that I have been doing this show, these 2 gentlemen here, they are top shelf in terms of information, the way they articulate it, in terms of being transparent and people of integrity. So I just don't understand, and I really want to understand that. I don't want to say, I don't want to say that you know, this person, that this is what the DLP is doing, and you know, etc. I want to really understand why, right? Because you guys have so much information, and let me just address this here. I am not shutting down any suggestions, Colin Roach, and I'm going to call out your name. That is not true. That is not true. The marches and all the suggestions happen on this show. And so it's not true. This particular suggestion, Mr. Colin Roach, I'm saying I do not do a Zoom show. If you feel like you want to do a Zoom show, you can. But this is not what we do. Okay? And we've had, I don't have the facility for people to call in. When it happens, sometimes my phone, the sound doesn't work on my phone. Okay? And that's not what I'm doing. All right, so please don't do that. You can do your own Zoom meeting, and anybody else who feels like. It's all about education. But before we go, as I said, I was waiting on that in information, and I didn't get it. So I just want Mrs. Strickland, I know it's funny, just take a minute and close to us, and then Mr. Franklin takes another minute to close. Okay. All right, let me turn off my mic because that's where the trouble comes. Go ahead, Mr. Strickland. Exactly 1 minute. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much. I really have enjoyed being on the show. I am about public education. That's all I'm about. And as a Sunday school teacher, it has been my passion for years. There's only one thing that I would want to a challenge I would like to put out at this present moment, and that is to the Minister of Labor. Can he state to Barbadians that all persons with working with these statutory corporations are all of them paying contributions? Because I am getting word that there are those who are attached to the botanical gardens and national insurance is still not being taken out. So, I mean, there's a lot more that I'm certain that we will deal with in the future, but I do really appreciate the genuineness of those who come on the program, and I am glad that it's your format and not a Zoom format, because a lot of time is wasted by persons who have particular agendas, and therefore I will have nothing to do with individuals who have a political agenda. So that, Marcia, I do applaud you. I was part of a program that a seminar that you were responsible for just recently in St. James. So this is not just, Marcia is not just about marches. She is about a lot more. And therefore, I really want individuals to financially support and to pray for her, because there are those who will attack us in one way or the other. But, I'm saying that, the truth will make us free. Good night and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Franklin.
Marcia, you will recall when we first started the show, I was telling you, a suggestion was made to me that I should start my own Zoom thing, and I have a Zoom account that I can have 500 people available. And I said, Marcia, but boy, we invent the wheel. You got your show already. We can do it. We can deliver on your show. And Marcia readily agreed. So I don't know what I wanted to do a Zoom now. This has been working for us. It worked for me, and I'm very grateful to you for allowing me to share your show to put out the information that I have to the people of Barbados, because I feel it is vital. I feel people need to know it. What do you think they were in the air with their drones and all kind of stuff? Because your show, Marcia, you are making an impact. You are making a difference in this country. Thank God for you. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been great, guys. And see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday and Friday at 7. Tomorrow, Wednesday and Friday at 7. And I'm waiting. I want to see the rules of the DLP to find out if people are allowed to do their own, invite their own guests, and what And I trust that this goes through. And I want to commend you to mighty men for standing up and speaking and educating the people of Barbados, men of integrity. Thank you so much, and blessed night to everybody. God bless. Bye
Good
bye.
night.